You're watching Cable 2.
Good evening and welcome to the April 11th, 2023 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. I am Deanna Kaplan, Board Chair, and I appreciate your attendance and also say good evening to our viewers on Cable 2. Will you please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing as you are able for the invocation given by Board Member Susan Miller. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. God, we gather here today acknowledging that our understanding often falls short. We have a vision for our students and we have ideas, but we don't want to depend on our own understanding for solutions and the way forward. We know that though we make plans, you are ultimately the one who establishes our footsteps. Help this board to submit all plans to you and to seek your guidance. You know the areas where we are struggling to figure out what to do or how to go about doing it. We ask that you clear our minds from anything that may distract us from our time together. And we ask that you would graciously fill us with your wisdom and understanding, and show us how to move forward. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Board Member Miller. Our first order of business tonight is the agenda review. Do I have a motion to amend the agenda to include action on the approval of the Celebrate History resolution? This was presented on March 28th, but requires action approval since it is a resolution, and to amend the agenda to return to close after our open meeting to discuss a personnel matter. Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. That is unanimous. Our next order of business is our student performance. Please join me in welcoming the Jefferson Middle School Saxophone Ensemble.
We are a saxophone quartet from Jefferson Middle School, and we're going to play a march from Telemann and Imperial March from Star Wars.
That was just incredible, and thank you to Andrew Kraft and Shane O'Neill, the principal. That was wonderful. Our next order of business is our special recognitions. First is the Volunteer Appreciation Proclamation presented by Brent Campbell, our Chief Communications and External Relations Officer.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, Vice Chair Bohannon, and Superintendent McManus, and members of the board. We're excited. April is National Volunteer Month, and our department manages that program for the district. This is a time nationally to recognize those who give their time and their energy across the country in our communities. As you'll hear later tonight in our update, we're lucky enough to have about 11,000 of those just in this district. And Terry Matthews is on our stage with me tonight. She's our volunteer coordinator for the district. Let me first read the proclamation to you. Whereas during the 2022-23 school year, over 11,000 parents, community stakeholders, and community partners committed to volunteering in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. Whereas our dedicated volunteers have and continue to give their time, talents, and treasures in our schools and have a positive impact on the lives of students across the district. And whereas National Volunteer Week is an opportunity to recognize and honor the countless individuals who support WSFCS students by investing countless hours of services. And whereas volunteers help to support social and emotional learning, academic tutoring, and encourage a sense of belonging amongst students. And whereas WSFCS volunteers support our teachers and administrators across the district as they build the leaders of the future. And whereas each year a special week is designated in our nation to recognize the accomplishments as well as the giving spirit that lives within all of our volunteers. And whereas time is fitting that WSFCS says thank you to all of the parents, individuals, community groups, and businesses who share their time to make a difference in the lives of others by volunteering with Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So now, therefore, be it resolved that Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and the WSFCS Board of Education do hereby proclaim April 17th through the 23rd of April to be National Volunteer Week. And again, in accordance with the National Volunteer Month. Tonight, we're going to recognize for you the Core Awards Volunteer of the Year nominees. Now, for those of you that don't know, each school has the opportunity to select a Volunteer of the Year. Then, if the volunteer so chooses to join to the district level to run for our Core Awards, which is our District Volunteer of the Year, they do so. We had roughly 13 folks who have advanced to that next step, and we're going to recognize some of those folks for us tonight. We'll start with Lavonda Avant from Flat Rock Middle School. Not all of them are here, but we're still going to recognize them anyway. Eureka Felipe from Paisley IB Magnet School. Mitzi Flores Hahn from Union Cross Elementary School. Jason Rubley from Piney Grove Elementary School. Lori Starling from Reagan High School. Laura Nealon from Reynolds High School. Camille Harvey from Brunson Elementary School. Angel Howard from East Forsyth High School. Megan Bennett Irby, the Downtown School. Nellie Coates from South Fork Elementary School. Lori Gail Chavis from Old Town Elementary School. Rose Marie Brown from Kimberly Park Elementary School. Christina Harper Mullins from Kernersville Elementary School. Lacey Ben Miller from Sedge Garden Elementary School, and he has his pal with him that he uses as he volunteers at Sedge Garden. And Fernando Arroyo from Easton Elementary School. So let's give all of our volunteers, the ones here now, a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good.
Chair Kaplan, before Terry, will you come out real quickly? I
Yes.
noticed Terry was handing out the certificates, and that's an important role, but she oversees our volunteers, that coordinates the volunteer program. So thank you. Wanted to make sure that we highlight that this
Yes,
evening.
thank
So
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Next is National Autism Awareness Proclamation presented by Dr. Paula Wilkins.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent McManus, and wonderful audience. And this afternoon, I get an opportunity to recognize some amazing educators who are making change in the lives of our children. And so the first, I want to read a resolution to support Autism Awareness Month. And just from a national perspective, what we know is that about 1 in every 36 individuals is impacted by autism. And so the work that our educators are doing in service of both supporting our students and making change and impact on their lives is phenomenal. And so first of all, we just want to say thank you and to uplift them this month and every day as they do the great work in service of our students. So I'll read the resolution and then I have an opportunity to recognize a few of our educators. Whereas the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools provides opportunities for learning where all students are educated to their fullest potential and as a center of our community around which we come together in support of the education of all students. And whereas autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong developmental disorder that can impact the individual's social skills, communication, relationships, and self-regulation, and whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's National Health Statistics report concluded the prevalence of autism spectrum disorder occurs for 1 in every 36 children in the United States. And whereas is reported to occur in all racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic groups, but is more than 4 times more common among boys than among girls. And whereas early diagnosis and intervention programs lead to significantly improved outcomes for individuals with autism spectrum disorder, and whereas the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District employees qualified and caring individuals who educate and work daily to improve the lives of students with an autism spectrum disorder. And whereas April 2023 is designated as National Autism Awareness Month to increase public awareness of the need to support individuals and the family members, educators, and other professionals who teach and care for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Therefore, be it resolved that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education hereby celebrates National Autism Awareness Month from April 1st through the 30th, 2023, that it recognizes and commends the family members of children with autism spectrum disorder for their dedication to support their growth and development, that it emphasizes the need to begin early intervention services for children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, that it honors the teachers, paraprofessionals, and other educators who provide the support and acquire the skills necessary to teach, assist, and respond to students with special needs, including those with autism spectrum disorder, and who work tirelessly to educate and provide high-quality services for all students with special needs enrolled in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, we recognize our teachers that support our MAP, our Multiple Abilities Program. So I'd like to recognize a few teachers that are here tonight. And if I've omitted a name or we didn't see one of our educators tonight, I also ask that you please stand. So let me recognize the ones that I saw today that we were able to catch coming in. So our first educator is Carol Blankenbeckler, who is a MAP educator from East Forsyth High School. Christy Berry, MAP educator from Cash Elementary School. And Karen Abbott, our district autism support team. And did I miss any educator from our MAP support team? We have a few more that we'll recognize in some of our upcoming meetings as well that were unable to make it tonight. Thank you. Our next recognition is for our Occupational Therapist Awareness Month.
Okay.
And I get the pleasure to read the resolution in support of all the work that our OT professionals do in service of rehabilitation services for our students due to illness or injury. So I'll read the resolution, and then we have one of our OT therapists here tonight to recognize. Whereas the American Occupational Therapy Association has declared the month of April 2023 to be known as Occupational Therapy Month. And whereas the profession of occupational therapy makes valuable contributions in helping people live life to its fullest after an illness or injury. And whereas the services of occupational therapy are available to citizens of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County through hospitals, home health agencies, schools, outpatient clinics, and skilled nursing assisted living facilities. And whereas the health and productivity of our citizens depend upon the effective use of health resources, including the important services of occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants. Therefore, be it resolved that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education hereby proclaims the month of April 2023 as Occupational Therapy Month and call upon all citizens to recognize the achievements and contributions of these valued health professionals. Occupational Therapists Awareness Month honors the occupational therapists in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools as they support academic achievement by addressing underlying performance skills, including fine motor, visual motor, and sensory processing, in order to help students with special needs successfully access their educational curriculum and participate in daily activities. Please join me in celebrating and thanking one of our occupational therapists, Lisa Rabowski.
Thank you, Dr. Wilkins, for making those presentations, those resolutions. Next is the National Week of the Young Child, presented by Heather Robbins, our pre-K instructional coach.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Pre-K is here. We're so excited. I'm Heather Robbins, and I am one of 3 instructional coaches in our department. I'm here to recognize some fabulous, fabulous teachers of children who are between the ages of 3, 4, and 5. We are here because they have chosen to support our very youngest learners and their families, and it's something special. Those who work with young children and their families are special in and of themselves, and I don't say that just because I used to teach them. I say it because it's true. You may have heard it takes a certain kind of breed to do that, and I agree with that. But we especially want to do this because we are kicking off the Week of the Young Child, which my colleague Casey will share a little bit more with you in just a few minutes. But we want to recognize the many hats that our teachers wear during their school day. They are teachers. They've chosen this profession. They are stand-in parents. They comfort. They guide. They sometimes have to discipline in positive ways. They protect. They are nurses, sometimes doctors. They are referees. They are waitresses and waiters, custodians, comforters, play partners, cheerleaders. They are ringmasters, as sometimes it does seem like it's a three-ring circus in a pre-K classroom. They are comedians and rock stars, and they are role models, and they are friends. The typical pre-K day can be just as exhausting as it is fun and rewarding. So, to our teachers who are hiding over there, so you can't see them yet, I say to you, so listen, use your listening ears, please accept our gratitude as we recognize you for all the songs you sing, the games you play, the shoes you tie, the noses you wipe, the peer interactions you encourage, the attainment of skills you facilitate, the partnerships with families you develop, the home visits you make each year, the out-of-pocket expenses you incur, the 12,000 pieces of data that you enter into each child's online assessment portfolio, and the classroom families that you create as you nurture your little pre-K friends. You are kind, you are important, and you are appreciated. So would you all please help me in recognizing and showing appreciation for, from Cache Elementary School, Michelle Lewis. Michelle attended Cache Elementary School, and now she works there. And she's been there most of her life, she thinks. Right, Michelle? Yes. Thank you for all you do. And also, from Union Cross Elementary, would you please put your hands together for Kimberly Glenn? Thank you, Kimberly. And from Ibrahim Elementary, Courtney Berry. And from Bolton Elementary, Lauren Bradley, whose mother I taught at Salem. And from Kimmel Farm, LaVon Troutman and her sweet, sweet daughter, who will be 4 by the cutoff date. And from Old Town Elementary, Natasha Thompson. And from Gibson Elementary, Claudia Townsend. And from Diggs Latham, one who shares my name, who I also taught at UNCG, Heather Drab. We have one teacher, Latrice Harris, who's not with us tonight. And then our last recognition is someone who is quite special. I started working with her 30 years ago. In 1993, I joined her at the Special Children's School, and she is still there, but not for much longer, as she will be retiring this school year. Darlene Jackson. Thank you for all that you do, ladies, and thank you to the board for giving us time to recognize them.
Thank you.
Now, Casey's going to talk to you a little bit more about the Week of the Young Child. Yes, tell them all. Yeah. Thank you.
celebration for our teachers, for our young children. We're looking at the Week of the Young Child, and Winston Forsyth County Schools' local celebration is going to be April 15th through 17th. So what is the Week of the Young Child? It was created to focus a public attention on the needs of our young children and their families, to recognize those early childhood programs and services that meet those needs. The Week of the Young Child is typically April 1st through 7th of this year. However, we were on our spring break, so we are going to be celebrating the 15th through 17th and so forth. We celebrate this week every year. The purpose of the week is to draw attention to the critical needs of our youngest students in our schools and how effective instruction at an early age can make a world of difference as those children grow and develop. So, how can we celebrate? For each day, NAEYC has developed a theme. For Monday is a Music Monday, and so for families to be able to work with their children as well as teachers in our classrooms, we're working on early literacy, language, math skills while having fun with their families. We can listen and dance to favorite songs, make instruments, make up new songs, make up a new dance, and also use some of our community resources like the Forsyth County Public Library, which has a music and movement class on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. that is free to all community members as well. And we also have little links to be able to make homemade instruments because we love making things in our classrooms to get our hands on. Tuesday is Tasty Tuesday, so being able to work together with your families to cook up your favorite foods and learn about their own individual cultures. Could plant seeds together as well, watch them grow. Using literacy, those math, science skills, as well as building relationships with their families. And always trying to make those healthy foods and healthy choices as well, which helps with our development. Wednesday is Work Together Wednesday, so playing games at home, finding different materials to build something together. It encourages turn-taking and problem solving. Home Depot, as well as Lowe's, also in our community, offers different programs on Saturdays to where kids can go in and they have all the materials for them to learn and build different things. And these are actually pictures from some of our classrooms. One of our teachers from Old Town, this is some pictures from her classroom. There were communities, their families in their community got to build things together at home when they were working on the building unit. Thursday is our Artsy Thursday. Families can make their own masterpieces from items they have in their home. Create their own self-portraits, help children develop their fine motor skills, literacy skills as well, with their drawing, painting, cutting, and gluing with a variety of materials. And of course, Friday is Family Friday. Families spend time together making meaningful connections. They can participate in outdoor activity, game night, movie night, special meal, read your favorite book. The list will just go on and on and on. And NAEYC also has plenty of additional activities for families to look into just to be able to spend time together and, make those lasting memories. So we're just working together to help build our early childhood programs, help to build our families within our community so that we can watch our children grow. And that's all. Thank you.
Chair Kaplan, before we go into public comment, so I know we had representative samples tonight from teachers that are in our MAP classrooms supporting our children with autism. We've had representation of our occupational therapists, and then of our pre-K teachers. But I just wanted to there are so many that were not here tonight as well. I'm so glad that some could be here tonight, but there are so many. And if you walk into our classrooms, our MAP classrooms, and see the amazing work our teachers are doing, if you walk into our pre-K classrooms, there is so much love and joy. If you want to be happy, go into those classrooms every day. But shout out to all of our teachers and our staff, not just the teachers, but our paraprofessionals, our staff that work with our administrators. I see principal back there, Sandra, and others that support our students every day. And also then occupational therapy. That I will tell you that I thank early intervention of occupational therapy with my own daughter for her amazing, the physical skills that she has, the ability she has from that early intervention. So it's so important, the work that our occupational therapists, speech therapists, all of those do for our students. I just wanted to highlight all of the professionals in our buildings for all that were represented this evening.
Thank you so much for that. At this time, we will hear public comments on the agenda items only. If you have signed up to speak, we ask that you sit near the aisle seats closest to the podium. Please be kind and respectful and know that we cannot talk about sensitive or private or student or personnel information in this public setting. You have 2 minutes to speak because we have quite a few speakers. And if you have more to share, always know you can email us directly. So first, Nathan Parrish.
First, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, Chair Kaplan, members of the board, and Superintendent McManus. I'll be speaking to item C on the resolution regarding voluntary desegregation. So with the 2 minutes, I'm going to try to get to some of these points. First, an observation that after months of work through a special choice committee, consultation with cooperative strategies, and participation in the Bridges Collaborative, it is disappointing tonight to come and essentially have an integration and desegregation strategy presented for reaffirmation that seems to be little more than what we've been doing for 3 decades in this county without success. Some combination of choice and magnet schools, and in fact, some would argue a strategy that in fact creates some of the ethnic and economic segregation that exists in the county. Now, a couple of questions about the specific item. How will the proposed IB magnet schools be sustained beyond the grant periods if the grant is achieved? How will the existing student assignment plan and zones be changed to promote desegregation and eliminate high levels of minority group isolation in other schools? Will the board remove blue-green overlays in zones 1, 7, and 8 in the southwest middle zone, all of which perpetuate some form of segregation and isolation? What is the desegregation plan for majority group isolation? Schools where the percentage of white students is disproportionately high relative to the percentage of white students in the district as a whole. What is the transportation plan? The coalition does not oppose IB programs or the grant, but we do advocate a different approach, the approach of eliminating schools of concentrated poverty as the primary but not exclusive way of establishing educational equity and greater academic achievement in the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Sally Hirsch.
Good evening, school board members, Superintendent McManus. I'll be speaking to something that Nathan Parrish just said, and we are from the Coalition for Equity. We would like to dig a little deeper due to the many concerns mentioned by Nathan, particularly with the issues of schools within schools, which potentially can breed discontent rather than peace, which we know is essential for learning. School safety will also be discussed. IB programs are typically extremely rigorous and require much preparation and continuous improvement guides, which I'm happy to see is the 5th point stated in your resolution's core beliefs. The 4th point states that a safe school environment is necessary for learning. I was pleased to hear board member Brown Gaither state in a recent forum that you cannot teach math if a student can't read. One thing builds upon another. As reading underpins math, safe and peaceful schools, school cultures and environments underpin all learning. Recently, some middle schools were left more vulnerable due to moving metal detectors to high schools, and we had no metal detectors in elementary schools. We know the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools has a long-term safety plan and is willing to expedite part of that plan. The Coalition for Equity urges this district to fully expedite their safety plan now, in accordance with their core beliefs stated in this resolution. And place metal detectors in every school and do everything in your power, including listening to the requests and urgings of your students, parents, teachers, school personnel, and the greater community. And please, as I said at the beginning, show us your plan to stop the discontent created by magnets that exhibit schools within schools. Expedite that plan as well. Do these things as you seek your grant, and many will have deep confidence in your actions. Thank you very much, Sally.
Thank you. Valerie Brokenbar.
Board Chair Kaplan, board members, and Superintendent McManus. My name is Valerie Brokenborough, and I am the parent of a freshman at Reynolds High School. Tonight, Mrs. Jenkins will be giving a legislative update, and I'm looking forward to hearing about pending bills and what impact they may have on our district. I think it's really important for parents, educators, and students to be informed before a bill becomes law so we can reach out to our elected representatives in support or opposition to these bills. I hope that the board will adopt resolutions that are related to pending legislation and then share these resolutions with the community widely. Tonight, I want to address specifically the impact of SB 49, the so-called Parents' Bill of Rights. And I have questions about how it will be implemented in our schools. First of all, SB 49 will harm many LGBTQ students by requiring teachers to out them to their parents. So how will it work in our schools? At the beginning of the year, will a teacher need to explain to their class that if they are asked by a student to change their pronoun, the teacher will have to share that information with the parents? This will put the teacher in a difficult position with both the parents and the student. First and foremost, professional educators must be able to make choices with respect to the safety of their students. School is sometimes the only safe place for LGBTQ students. 28% of LGBTQ youth have reported experiencing homelessness or housing instability at some point in their lives due to issues at home. SB 49 says it's about parents' rights, but we also need to remember children's rights. Schools are supposed to be a safe and welcoming place for all students. SB 49 is harmful, not helpful. And I hope the board will oppose such harmful legislation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Laura Smith.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, board members, Superintendent McManus. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I also just wanted to say a few words about some bills before the state legislature and our legislative agenda. I'll be talking about SB 406, Choose Your School, Choose Your Future, which is the expansion of a school voucher program. I'm very concerned that in this environment where we're getting ready to face the end of federal funding for COVID and trying to cope with learning loss among our students, that we're proposing an extremely expensive expansion of a school voucher program that will not only give that money to low-income students, but will also expand it to students who have higher income on a sliding scale from 100% down to 45% of PPE. And at the same time, the budget for the whole program is going up every year to a total of $500 million in 2032, which seems like a lot of money. My questions about that, having attended the town hall a couple of weeks ago with the Board of Commissioners and with your board, where you explained very much sort of the limitations of our district budget and how much we depend on the state budget, is how that new proposed voucher program will affect our students, our ability to retain good teachers, our ability to keep up our numbers. There doesn't seem to be a provision in that new state proposal for stabilization funds if we actually lose students to the program. Right now, we have 1,053 students in the program, and there's funding for 19 schools. So I'm just eager to know how that will affect our district, because I have 3 students in the district, and what we might be able to do about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Levine.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. Last week, I was in Raleigh speaking with the elected reps from our county on public education. Specifically, the group I was with was addressing the budget, which the House was getting ready to vote on, as well as many of the bills pending that would impact our public schools. And I was glad to hear that we were going to be talking about legislation tonight. I'm going to put another plug in for the need for a legislative agenda. And I think a legislative agenda would be a great guide for us, as well as an eventual lobbyist who could be there working for us and who would be there to advocate for bills such as House Bill 187. House Bill 187 is essentially an education gag order. It is designed to affect the ability of educators' districts to discuss economic, racial, and social issues with their students. Specifically, it stokes fear and creates a false divide between parents and educators. It communicates that we don't trust educators to provide age-appropriate lessons for kids about our past and present so that they're prepared for the real world. It also doesn't allow students to receive an accurate, honest education that helps them develop those critical thinking skills and promotes cultural understanding that we know they need. And finally, it would hamstring the African American infusion curriculum that the district has already developed. Bottom line, our children will be worse off if this bill passes. Our teachers will be worse off if this bill passes. The bill is unnecessary. It's a solution searching for a problem, and we need many voices speaking out against it. And we still need a legislative agenda for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Marshall Marvelli.
Superintendent McManus, Chair Kaplan, board members, it's a pleasure this evening. My name's Marshall Marvelli, and I'm the high school English department at Paisley. I came there in 2005, 3 years after the program inception, under Marion Pittman Couch. Most people don't know this, but at that time, the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, full implementation of all 5 years, was almost unheard of. And Paisley was the only school in the Southeast and one of a handful of schools in the entire United States that actually offered the program in that fashion. Prior to COVID, we were growing. And every year, we were dealing with having to flirt with whether we were going to have a lottery. In a word, we were successful. And what I'm here to argue tonight is that we can be as successful once again, but we need your help. The grant you're considering receiving, in my view, is a major step forward in returning to our earlier success. Like all other schools in this district, we are struggling post-COVID, and we're going to learn, and we are learning, how to adapt and recover from that terrible disease. However, our International Baccalaureate, or IB program, because of the rigor embedded by the IB curriculum, imposes outside standards on us. This grant, with its funding, provides us with an opportunity to jumpstart a return by the faculty and staff to a program that formerly attracted students from every elementary school in this district. This group of current and former students you're about to hear represent not only our past, but our future. And I leave it to these students, in their turn, to present to you a picture of what I think IB can be in this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Kenny Moore.
Good evening, members of the board, members of the school board, and attendees. My name is Kennedy Moore, and I'm a 9th grader at Paisley and have been in the IB program since 6th grade. I've grown most in being a risk taker and reflective as I've been challenged this school year by myself and others more than ever. For example, I found myself in situations where I can choose to do an assignment that is in my comfort zone or one that will help me think outside the box and take a different approach. I had the option to do a creative writing essay or a research one, and I chose the creative writing because I felt it was best to hone in my skills further and that was a good opportunity too. Being reflective has also helped me significantly because I'm always observing my past and new ways I can improve on my mistakes. Like when I realized that the method I used to study wasn't very effective, so I found a way to change it and have better habits. It's important that students are challenged like this because it helps prepare us for college and the real world, and I am proud to be a part of the IB program alongside my peers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Piper Machado.
Good evening, board members and audience. My name is Piper Machado. I'm 15 years old and in the 9th grade at Paisley IB Magnet School. Paisley has never been easy, not in the 6th grade and not in the 9th. Rigor is high, expectations are high, and the workload has been heavy from the time I started at Paisley to the present, but that has benefited me drastically. I strongly believe that every student should be challenged in order to learn, and that's what IB does so well. All throughout middle school, I worked hard and I left the 8th grade with 4 high school credits, where most of my friends at other schools had 2 or 3. I also left the 8th grade with time management, problem solving, critical thinking, and communicative skills. That's why I believe IB is so important. It prepares students for their academic future. And on top of that, Paisley specifically is in one of the most persistently poor areas of Winston-Salem. 45% of households in the neighborhood surrounding Paisley have children present. Children who are given the right resources and are prepared correctly are completely capable of going to college and creating a bright future for themselves. This is why IB should continue to be supported. IB is a free program for students to help them prepare for their futures in education and eventually their future careers. And that's why schools like Paisley need it so greatly. All students of any income, race, or gender should be able to have access to the best education possible, and I truly believe that learning through the IB program is a privilege that should be accessible to every student for generations to come, and I hope that you do too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Chembia Banaharan? No? Close? Okay.
Good evening, board members. My name is Chembia, and I'm a 9th grader at Paisley Magnet School. The International Baccalaureate, or IB, is a program designed to create knowledgeable and caring citizens for a more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. As the numbers show, Paisley is obviously rich in diversity. In the 4 years that I've been there, I have been introduced to students of various backgrounds and cultural differences. And it is truly captivating to see how the rigor of IB pushes students to exercise their potential, regardless of where they come from or stand in terms of their academics. 6 years ago, I immigrated from India to the US. But before moving to the States, I attended another IB school in a whole other country. And something that still continues to fascinate me would be the huge similarities in how IB's main objectives are implemented in schools over 8,000 miles apart from each other. This just goes to show how IB's mission to create intercultural understanding is really carried out all across the world in order to achieve a universal approach to more peace for future generations to come. An important way the program develops intelligent and diplomatic citizens would be through the IB Learner Profile Traits, a list of characteristics instilled in every IB student. Paisley has not only promoted this, but it also has provided numerous opportunities for its students to gain each trait through community service opportunities and such, whether it be cleaning up the school environment or volunteering at the school library. For me, it would be serving as the school ambassador. This required me to develop a professional disposition and, more importantly, allowed me to grow as a communicator. I have spoken to prospective students and their parents, but particularly rising 9th graders about the high school. Board, being a student at Paisley has allowed me to develop the social skills and confidence I needed to be here standing in front of you tonight. My time there has been an impactful experience I hope future generations of learners can benefit from. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Venice Wilkins.
Good evening, Board of Education members. I am Denise Wilkins, a current sophomore or year 5 at Paisley IB Magnet School. From my 5 years as an International Baccalaureate student, I will attest for the impact IB has made on me as a learner and how it has equipped me for future adulthood. The multiple aspects that make IB so powerful includes small class sizes, strong relationships between teachers and faculty, the IB profile learner traits, genuine camaraderie between students no matter their race, gender, or sexual orientation, and supportive teachers who want to see their students succeed. However, I admit I was pretty apprehensive moving into 9th grade or year 4 at Paisley. However, the wonderful environment and adaptive teaching techniques I experienced at Paisley transformed me. Year 4 was my first completely in-person learning experience post-COVID. This is definitely a big adjustment, but with the support of my teachers and an improved work ethic, I was able to flourish. The IB program's mission statement states, developing, inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who want to create a better, more peaceful world through education that builds intercultural understanding and respect. I believe that the program accomplishes the mission through group activities that are unique to IB, including community service, leadership opportunities, personal projects, collaborative community efforts, and a rigorous curriculum that benefits students aiming towards higher education. The structure of IB classes are uniquely formatted with students in mind. This contrasts the honors and AP classes that, in my perspective, teach towards a test rather than sharpening critical thinking skills and encouraging self-directed learning. Being taught in different learning styles is very beneficial to all students and enhances the overall learning experience. The IB MYP program assures me that when I leave Paisley this spring and transition to Parkland for the IB diploma program, I will be equipped to prosper and thrive as I pursue my educational career. Thank you for your time this evening, but I do ask that the school board approves the voluntary desegregation plan to support additional funding to help IB programs blossom. Have a great night.
Thank you. Haley Fiacero? Sorry.
Good evening, board members. My name is Haley Farisel, and I'm a freshman at Wake Forest University. When I look back at my time spent in the school system, I can confidently say that my years at Paisley were overall the most valuable to me. From the start, the support that I received from my teachers at Paisley from 6th through 10th grade played a crucial role in my educational success and continues to do so today. It was always so clear that my teachers wanted to push me to become the best I could be while providing me with support in every aspect. Through this, I formed incredibly valuable relationships that still continue today. My class was incredibly diverse, which allowed me to meet many different people with a plethora of backgrounds. This expanded my perspective tenfold and led me to foster some incredible friendships. Because I had known my class through all of middle school, by the time we got to high school and there were only 60 of us left, it was like attending school with my siblings. We were all very close, and I remember being so excited to attend school each day just to see everyone. Paisley was such a comfortable place for me, and I felt I could truly be myself in that environment. Now that I'm finishing my freshman year of college, I believe that IB is very similar to the college environment I've experienced. Like college, IB provides connections to opportunities that align with your interests, allowing you to apply your classroom learning to the real world. While in high school, I would talk to my friends at other schools, and it became very apparent to me that the opportunities that Paisley was providing me were very unique, such as partnering with Wake Forest on research. These opportunities furthered the quality of my education so much. Finally, I believe that my love of learning was fueled by my IB education. Through my time in the program, I became a passionate writer and completed advanced courses that challenged and excited me. I gained a global perspective that helps me today. To conclude, my years at Paisley have enriched my life in more ways than I can count. I would absolutely recommend the experience to everyone, and I believe that it should receive so much more recognition than it does. Each and every day, I'm so thankful for my experience that I received at Paisley. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nani Agbana?
Good evening, members. Hi, Pastor Barb. I'm Nani Agbuna. I am a 2016 graduate of Parkland IB Magnet School and a 2014 graduate of the Middle Years program at Paisley and a 2020 graduate of Duke University. So I'm here to just kind of talk about my IB experience and, if I can, encourage you all to continue investing in that experience. I think the two main things that I got from the IB program, it definitely elevated me to a higher standard, and it expanded my capacity for excellence. So I'll talk about the standard first and foremost. It was never enough for me to be a straight A student. It was never enough for me to, raise my hand and have the right answer in class. I always wanted to do more. I always reached for more, and I was always encouraged to do so by teachers like Mr. Marvelli and Mr. Jeffers at Parkland. Whoever was teaching me in the IB program, I can definitely credit them for that. And so I did so much in my high school career. I started a club to address the racial inequities that I had learned about in class. I traveled to Maryland to speak to educators about the state of the education system. I worked so hard in high school. I worked so hard, and I knew that I was doing it, and I was pursuing the IB diploma because it was going to help me with my higher education endeavors. I was very ambitious. I knew that I wanted to go to a top university, and I was confident that with the IB diploma, I could do that. And I did that, and I always told my parents, they would be like, "You're working so hard, like go out, go take a break, whatever." And I would be like, "No, I'm confident that this is going to help my future," and it did. I got a full ride to Duke, graduated from Duke debt-free, and I definitely credit that to the IB program. And in terms of the capacity for excellence, just very quickly, Duke, of course, is a very rigorous school. It's not an easy university to be at. However, I wasn't intimidated by the course load the way that some of my peers were. You know, if we had a 40-page paper due, I knew that I had done that. I had done that at Paisley, I'd done that at Parkland, you know, and so the IB program definitely raised me to a higher standard. It expanded my capacity for excellence, and it's something that I very much believe in. As long as Mr. Marvelli is there, it's something you should continue investing in. So just to say that, so thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Noel Keener. Nicole. Noel Keener. Oh, sorry.
I'm a high school principal. I'm pretty tough.
Yes,
It's all right.
yes, sorry.
Good evening, board. Hi, Mr. Bohannon. My name is Noelle Keener, and I am the proud principal of Parkland High School. I've come to talk to you guys today as a one-year veteran, now on the job here at Parkland. Just celebrated my 1 year, April 7th. But I have had a great year. The IB learners strive, we have 10 principles, to become inquirers, to become knowledgeable, to become thinkers, to become communicators. I am an over-communicator by nature, just FYI. Principled, open-minded, caring, risk-takers, balanced, and reflective. That last one's the one I'm working on, that reflective. So I just want to make a plug. I can't do better than our students did, possibly, but I just want to talk about what I've seen in the IB program since we have started. We got some training this year. We got some monies for funds, so we did some training. We've been able to get some programs. I was able to get a full-time coordinator and a coordinator part-time for my MYP program, which you guys may or may not know is we are one of 3 schools in the state that have the DP, CP, and then the middle years program we use for our 9th and 10th graders. So our community is welcome in our program. We build our community to be successful in our program. And if you invest in our program, then we will be able to have our neighborhood students and the students from across the district, but specifically our neighborhood students can thrive in our program. And that's really what we're looking to do. And this funding, this grant would allow us to do that. You have the right people in place. I'm gonna tell you, you do. You've got some great students, and we're building some great staff members who are dedicated, and having the funding for us to fulfill this program would mean so much to our entire community. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Lynn Powers.
Hello, board members. No, that's okay. My name is Lynn Powers, and I'm the Diploma and Career-Related Program Coordinator at Parkland High School. This is my first year in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. I'm coming here following 12 years at Ben L. Smith High School in Guilford County, where I worked as an IB teacher, and then 5 years following that as the AP and IB coordinator. So I'm here not to speak specifically about the desegregation program, but to speak to the merits of the IB program and clear up some misconceptions there may be about what the IB program is and is not. The IB program is rigorous in thought and it's rigorous in skills. So therefore, it's rigorous in the type of work, and it's not meant to be a stick with which to beat children over the head. It compares to AP in that it is more holistic and it is designed to educate the whole child rather than teach to a 2/3 multiple choice and 1/3 written test, wherein one day determines whether or not you receive college credit for a course. An IB course is holistic, and there is both teacher and student autonomy in the topics that you learn, and there is student autonomy in the topics in which you choose to write about on your exams. You also have internal assessments during the school year that allow you to build towards that college credit during the 2 years you spend in the program. So in educating the whole child and building in a service component and other things, it allows for students to learn the skills that they are going to need when they leave high school. Having coordinated both an AP and an IB program, there simply isn't a comparison. An IB education is the best education available to students. As the only high school in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, we're the only option for students wishing to continue after 10th grade. IB is for every child. It is not for the elite few. We've demonstrated that this year in that between this year and next year, in the year that I've been here, we've been able to triple our enrollment for IB next year. So we're up from 5 CP students to 41, and we'll be up from 19 diploma juniors to 36 diploma juniors next year. More funding and more access to grants like this could help us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Eustacia Felipe?
Is that me? It's okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm terrible with names.
It's been my entire life. Good evening, board members. I am Eureka Felipe. I am the proud parent of 3 students, one daughter who completed the middle years program at Paisley, also completed the IB program at Parkland. I have a son who's an 8th grader at Paisley, and then I have a 5th grader at Whitaker who will be at Paisley next year. I believe in our IB program. I trust Paisley as the foundation to elevate my children's academic success. When I moved to Winston-Salem in 2012, I met several friends who encouraged me to enroll my daughter at Paisley. At that time, she was a student at Whitaker Elementary. She did not identify as gifted, and she was not motivated academically to be her best self. When she started at Paisley, the reading list and the writing process encouraged her to be her best self. She was then identified as gifted again, well, for the first time, and she was motivated to be her best self. And it revitalized her academic journey. It provided her an opportunity to be gifted and challenged. The IB writing intensity of the classes prepared her for her English classes. When she left the middle years program in 2019, the exam that she took that year, it led to her nomination for governor's school. She was accepted into governor's school in 2020. Unfortunately, it was canceled. But that also prompted her to continue to go to Parkland, where she ran for student class president. She gave the graduation speech, and she is now a sophomore at Wellesley College. And that would not have been the case without Mr. Marvelli preparing her for her writing intensive papers. As she arrived at Wellesley, she has not been challenged. She's basically on par with all the other students at a top school because of the foundation she received at Paisley and at Parkland. Please continue to support the IB program. I believe in it. I trust it. I promote it for everyone. It is my pleasure to serve as the PTSA president there because I believe that it can definitely return back to its glory pre-COVID. Thank you for your time.
Terry Nelson?
I'm the lady with without the printer. Someday maybe I'll get a printer. Good evening, Chair Kaplan, Superintendent McManus, cutting public school funding. House Bill 219 looks like another example of a haphazardly crafted bill that will not benefit the greatest majority of North Carolina students, our traditional public school population. House Bill 219 will shift more funds from traditional public schools to charter schools. It will burden public schools by providing sports and extracurricular activities to students whose families have chosen a charter school without providing any additional funding for the traditional public school. It will further reduce charter school accountability. They aren't required to follow the North Carolina standard course of study and are judged only by guidelines set by the charter schools. They are getting our taxpayer dollars with no outside accountability. We actually need charter schools to be held to the same standards as public schools. This includes transparency in curriculum and accountability to a democratically elected board. And we need more investment in public school education for our students and our communities and our schools to reach their full potential. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Vincent Wilkins.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful. Thank you guys for hearing me out today. My name is Vincent Wilkins. I am a parent of 3 IB students, and one of them is not here. She's already graduated at top of her class as well from Bennett College. So Thank you, guys. Definitely, Mr. Marvelli. I know y'all have heard that time and time again, but this brother is great at what he does. So why do I believe that IB education is important? I believe it is important because it is a vehicle for children, for my children in specific, to be better thinkers, learners, and inquirers. The level of integration that is promoted by the IB is to create multidisciplinary learning is what we should aspire for all of our students. When I heard there was a need for support of a school desegregation plan and funding needed to apply for the Magnet Schools of America grant, I knew I had to speak. I definitely knew that I had to speak in support of this wonderful learning experience and helping to challenge and inspire my daughters. IB has created a sense of urgency to care about the world around them and to become passionate about making a difference through personal projects, community services that are expected of IB students. Oftentimes, it is about making a great grade, but actually for my children, it is more so about learning. And I request that the Board of Education fully support and approve the desegregation plan in order to apply for funding for the Magnet Schools of America grant so that more students can have teachers and access to pipelines that create rigorous learning. Because I enjoyed the fact when she said it is about the rigorous learning. That is what they will be up against. And when our future sat here and spoke with us, they let us know that that is important. It is not necessarily about getting a job. It is about being leaders of this world and making this a better place for all of us. Thank you for my time.
Emily Shutt.
Hello, I'm Emily Shutt, a parent of 4 kids who are at Spies and Paisley. Hooray for IB. And this year I put my money where my mouth is when my youngest started kindergarten, and I'm a substitute teacher. And I've actually had the thrill of subbing for some of these folks you heard from tonight, and that's been such a joy to get to know the students and staff. But I'm here tonight on behalf of Action for Equity to express our concern with Senate Bill 193. Hopefully you all received, probably have not had time to review yet, but maybe from Dr. Willette Nash, our policy director, an email with a very thorough policy analysis on this bill. An overview of this bill is that it was passed by the North Carolina State Senate and would require all 7th grade students to complete a career development plan that includes a self-assessment of the school's students' aptitudes, skills, values, personality, and career interests, as well as identifying pathways for careers. If this bill becomes law, a student would not be promoted to the 8th grade if this plan was not in place. After an extensive review of the proposed policy, Action for Equity concludes that this bill is developmentally inappropriate for the age group that it targets. It does not adequately address concerns about current inequities in access to and participation in workforce development programs, and may lead to an increased and disproportionate rate of Black students and students from other marginalized communities and not being promoted to the next grade. Senate Bill 193 was passed unanimously with little debate or comment. It has been deferred to the House, and we believe it is imperative to make our concerns heard before this bill ends up on the desk of Governor Cooper for his signature. We encourage you as the school board to review our analysis and recommendations and use your voice and influence to oppose this bill in its current form. Thank you.
Our next order of business is the superintendent's update.
Thank you. So last week, we were on spring break, and we did not have a chance to recognize our assistant principals since we were all on spring break last week. And so that, except for one school, middle college, early college, 2 schools, at first sight, they were not on spring break last week. But the majority of our folks were. Lisa, their assistant principal, was working, but all the other assistant principals were definitely, hopefully took some time off last week. But it was National Assistant Principal Week. We thank them for their efforts every single day, supporting our principals and leading their schools. Also, just a quick update. We have sent out an application for a parent advisory council. I know that this is, folks have said, where does this come from? My understanding is there was one at one time. We have many advisory councils in our district to hear the voice of our stakeholders. We have a student advisory, a teacher advisory. We've got an equity advisory. We have a facilities advisory. We have many different forums to hear the voice of our stakeholders. And so we are reinstituting a parent advisory. The application went out. I believe it's still live. Looking at my team going, I think it is still live. From what I understand, this morning we had about 550 applications. That was early today, I believe that was the number. So I guess there's interest. And so basically, we are going to be creating a diverse group of parents that, you know, they can bring concerns, we can talk through those, but also where we can talk about things that we are thinking about for the future and get input, just like we do with our student advisory, teacher advisories, and so we're excited about that.
Madam Superintendent,
Yes.
sorry. I
Yes.
just wanted to, while we're on the subject, just thank Board Member Kuhn for
Yes.
assisting with her leadership on this. She's been talking about this council for a very long time, and so I'm excited that it's finally.
She has been on the ground floor in getting this application ready to go out, and she is going to be co-facilitating and being part of those meeting discussions, and absolutely. So thank you, Board Member Kuhn. Yes. Also, next week, we have a safety workshop. I know this has been a very important, it's been an important topic and a priority for many years, but this workshop is going to be a great opportunity for our board to not only hear from Jonathan Wilson, our Safety, Security, and Emergency Chief of Safety, Security, and Emergency Management, about what we're currently doing as part of our district safety plan. There are a lot of components to our safety plan, and this, just as a reminder, this is about the basically the physical safety, the hardening of our campuses, the actual safety and security. This is not focused on mental health supports and other forms of safety. But I think it's important for the board to know we do have law enforcement representatives from different agencies that we work with that will be part of the conversation from 10:30 to 12, an open dialogue with the board just to discuss ideas, thoughts, and as we move forward with safety. Also, we've got a lot of celebrations. We usually bring things here for each month, but we've got a lot of celebrations coming up that I wanted to highlight. And so during the week, Tuesday, April 25th, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 days that week, we are going to be doing different staff celebrations where we are recognizing different groups. We're going to be recognizing many of our classified groups during that week. You know, and I'm not going to even start naming them because I will not name all of them, and that will not be good. So I'm just going to say all of our classified employee groups will be recognized at different events that week. So we'll let the board know so you can come. We have Promise Awards for our new educators on Thursday, April 27th. We have Core Awards to recognize our winners from all of the different categories, from teacher to volunteer to classified employees and all of the different categories. We've got Teacher Appreciation May 8th through 12th, and then a Veteran Teacher Appreciation. We started this last year, and this would, Mr. Marvelli, you would qualify for this, and much more, I will tell you. But so our folks that have been at this for 25, years and up, they're a unique group of individuals that have dedicated their entire lives to really educating our youth. And so we have an appreciation event. I think it's about 400 teachers that are coming to that, well, I don't know if they're coming. They're going to be invited to that. I hope that they come because we really want to hang on to folks that have committed so much time and energy. And so I hope, Mr. Marvelli, after all that praise, that you're going to hang on with us for a lot longer. I'm looking at him putting a lot of pressure. But anyway, so lots of staff celebrations coming up. We are very blessed by the educators and the professionals that surround our children every day. And so this is just going to be a lot of time from now until the end of the school year to say thank you.
Any other board member comments, questions? Okay. Board Member Barr?
You know what? I want to get an update from our superintendent. I think all of us are aware that we've got a lot of text and a lot of emails concerning a situation that happened, an inappropriate dance performance, and some of our younger kids were exposed to that. Could you just kind of give us an update? And I know we had a press release, but I think the community just needs some assurance.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm happy to address that question. And yes, there was an article in the paper on Friday that gave a statement from the school district. I first and foremost want to tell you, as far as assurances, that we have spoken to Forsyth Tech administration, and we will be having a meeting very soon to sit down and look at the components of our MOA. None of our staff, none of you, as we've known through our back and forth on emails and in responding to community members, condone what happened on the Forsyth Tech campus. Our students that are there, they might be on a college campus, they're high school students, they're underage. It is not acceptable for them to have been part of the incident that happened on the campus with the performance. And so we made that very clear in our statement that we are sorry that happened. We were not, had we been in the loop in advance of that situation happening, we could have prevented that. Again, we will meet, we will outline the next steps of MOA so that we can be very clear on what our expectations are while our students are on a college campus. Again, the learning opportunities they get in early college, middle college are incredible, but we also just have to understand that our students are not college-age students, and we've got to have some very clear parameters. We will be bringing back, after we meet with their staff and outline the MOA to avoid any kind of issue that could happen like this in the future, we'll bring that back to the board with a revised MOA as soon as we've done that. That'll take a few weeks, going back and forth between the institutions and then bringing that to you all for an approval.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for that update, because I think a lot of people in the community, you know, were concerned, and it's good to hear your voice and I guess the voice of this board that we did not approve of that performance.
Absolutely.
Our kids been exposed to that. Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Barr. Our next order of business is discussion items. First, Brent Campbell, Chief Communications and External Relations Officer, will present the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Volunteer Program update.
Good evening again, everyone. We're here to talk a little bit more about our volunteer program. As you know, you proclaimed earlier this evening in this meeting that April is National Volunteer Month, a month to recognize volunteers in all of our communities. And with that in mind, we wanted to update you on our volunteer program and the fantastic work that's being done by the many community members that are a part of our program and that graciously give of their time and talent and treasure to serve with our students every day. Now, some of you may recall that for several years, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools contracted with what was then the Winston-Salem Chamber of Commerce to manage the WSFCS volunteer program. With new leadership at what is now Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., and a change in their focus and in keeping with the WSFCS strategic plan, which came out in 2020, specifically Goal 3, that focuses on strengthening our community partnerships, WSFCS reorganized the communications team to add the community engagement team, which is now led by our Executive Director, Mark Batten, who joins me up here this evening. With that, added the bringing back of the management of the volunteer program in-house in 2020. Well, we all know where we were in 2020, and that was at home. So there was not a lot of volunteer opportunities in 2020. So during COVID, it didn't allow for us to do some of the things that we wanted to do. So over time, our planned revamp of the program has taken on a little bit more time than expected, thanks to the pandemic. But after a full year now of in-person learning and volunteering opportunities, the department, now under the leadership of Terry Matthews, our volunteer coordinator for the district, who has extensive background in volunteering, really has worked, Terry specifically has worked to increase, streamline, and build volunteerism and the WSFCS volunteer experience in ways that really better serve our diverse population of students and schools. So we hope that tonight's very short update will serve as a look over the work the past year or so and the goals that the department has and is working to achieve in the coming months. And with that in mind, I will introduce Mark Batten, our Executive Director of Community Engagement.
Thank you, Brent, and good evening, Chair Kaplan, Vice Chair Bohannon, Superintendent McManus, members of the board, and also to our very caring and very generous community here tonight. We are excited to present a brief update about our work in communication. Work in community engagement using our tagline, making connections that move. So our service to the district focuses on ensuring our work with partners moves them from involvement to engagement, and that means having more active and more high-impact opportunities to engage our school communities. And through these efforts, it is our hope that students, families, and our educator teams feel welcomed, valued, and inspired. We do this by focusing on capacity building so that our involved partners can align their intent with the goals of WSFCS, which you will see some highlights of how that happens here in just a moment. This model allows us to work together alongside our partners, to share leadership, and to work together to develop a response to an opportunity that has presented itself to them. So who are our partners? Who are we talking about when we say who our connections are? We're looking at our corporate sector, our business partners, our nonprofits, our advocacy groups, our higher education classes and student organizations at Wake Forest and Salem and Winston-Salem State University, our very active faith communities like the Ministers Conference and the Interfaith Alliance of Louisville and Clemens, our local government agencies, but also the many different departments within WSFCS are part of our partnerships as well. And all of these groups make up a very important part of the WSFCS family, and that is our volunteers, which my colleague Terry Matthews will share about here in just a moment. This year, we've been in active conversation with over 95 partners on a variety of initiatives and projects. Now, the information that we are sharing tonight highlights the work of the community engagement team, and I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other partnerships at work in our schools through our PTAs, our PTOs, our athletic boosters, our band boosters, just to name a few. So thanks to the many thousands of partners who support our school communities each and every day. Our goal for community engagement is to cultivate long-term partnerships where partners are invested in the work on a long-term basis, whether it be supporting our 90 by 25 goal, providing tangible resources, or supporting academic and personal development for our students. So what does this meaningful engagement look like? Here are a few examples of our shared work with partners this year. Some of these you all have seen likely in the board spotlights or read about on our school websites and social media. One I'll lift up is our Thanksgiving Break Kit project, now in its third year. This year, we served families at every single school, about 400 families, and it included partnerships from Food Lion to Crisis Control to Creekside and Countryside Lanes, just to name a few. We're working with small companies and faith communities to provide hygiene kits and clothing resources to all levels of our schools. Our support of 90 by 25 is helping to recruit reading warriors and securing volunteers who can conduct read-alouds in our classrooms. We're also thankful to Bookmarks Bookstore for their unwavering support in providing author visits to our schools and thousands of books they donate each and every year to our media centers. I will also lift up this past summer, we hosted a no-cost school supply pop-up shop with families at Latino Community Services. This was a mass collaboration between the school system, United Way of Forsyth County, the WSFCS Multilingual Learner Team, PepsiCo, Wake Forest University School of Law students, and the Hispanic League. With this effort, we served over 100 families with backpacks they got to fill with great school supplies. There were family engagement initiatives. Snacks were provided from Pepsi. There was a craft where the students made binoculars, and they all got a sweet ice cream treat once they completed their shopping experience. We are planning to host 2 more of these this summer, again at Latino Community Services and expanding to Peacehaven Estates in the west area of Clemens. Some more of our activities I'll highlight include placing volunteers for career days at our schools. This helps our students peek into windows of new opportunities that they can engage in their future. We have gained support to help our schools restore or start their school gardens and greenhouses. And currently, a large undertaking we're working with is at Bank of America, who will soon provide a note of encouragement for every single third grader in our district as they begin their EOGs this year. We've also worked with our Exceptional Children's team on their Unified Champions event to offer volunteer support, but also to invite our partners to support the Community Helpers Village, where the exceptional children students with diverse abilities learned about the different agencies in our community who will support them now, but also in their future. Also want to lift up a partnership with Truist. They conducted a Day of Caring at Brunson Elementary back in October and had a huge effort where they went to the campus grounds, found a new mulch, updated the playground equipment, put a fresh coat of paint in the lobby, and conducted a number of other projects in that school. And then the last partnership I'll highlight is how we as a system not only serve with our partners, but how we give back to them. Through the generosity of the staff at the Administrative Center, our education building, but also the Inspire 340 schools during their Summer Institute in August, we were able to support Hope of Winston-Salem and their efforts as they provide food resources for students and families across 30 neighborhoods in Winston-Salem. They serve about 1,000 of our students each and every week. After 3 weeks of receiving donations, we were able to give back 421 pounds of snacks and pantry items to Hope for them to distribute on their weekly runs. So as you can see, our community engagement efforts support areas across our strategic plan as a district. Our goal in serving the district is to support schools, departments, and special initiatives so that our partners we can work with do the work that they are called and equipped to do. We strive to equitably distribute their offers of time and talent and treasure. And so far this year, we have served 60 of our schools in one of the ways highlighted in our presentation tonight. Now, all this work would not be possible without our partners' ability to volunteer and serve. So to share more about how we have refined our volunteer program, I welcome Terry Matthews, who I have the privilege to serve alongside each and every day.
Thank you, Mark. This number is fabulous, but it's not right, because even since we put together the presentation, we have more volunteers. So as of today at 5:01, we have 11,969 people who are willing to share their time, talent, and treasure with our scholars. That is an amazing number of people who believe in the work that is being done through our school system, but also believe that it takes a village to support our scholars. So that is amazing. Now I'll go into what we're doing to make these wonderful things happen. But first, let me share some more numbers with you. The main way that people want to volunteer with our scholars in our school system is by being a field trip chaperone, going on fun trips with the kids, but keeping them safe while they're around strangers. As classroom helpers, spending time in classrooms helping educators do education while they give bathroom breaks, go with someone to get Band-Aids, or just color with the child, or read with the child that just needs a little bit of extra attention so the teacher can focus on the bigger picture. And then festival and concession volunteers, helping to raise money so schools can get those little extra things that mean so much in our scholars' lives. We're creating a culture of high-impact volunteerism. So before we could do that, we knew that our website was a little bit dated, just a little bit, prior to COVID, a little bit prior to COVID. There was a website, and so we've done some revising. And with revising, it has just been a labor of love, I would say. We have created a website now that has job descriptions for each of the 14 to 15 roles that we have that volunteers can do, each one having a description of the job, how much time it takes out of your time. It could be 1 hour, it could be 30 hours a month, but it details that for you. It lets you know whether that opportunity is supervised or unsupervised for volunteering. And then it has a statement that tells what the cause and what the effect of you volunteering will do. We also added to our volunteer website our community partners, and a little bit of detail around what you can do with our community partners and links to their website. So if you wanted to volunteer with Big Brothers Big Sisters and you signed up through our volunteer system, you can look on our website and see what you can do there. So that is a new addition as well. Logos for those organizations are also there. We also made some updates to the application. So in hearing from community partners and through a survey that we did of existing volunteers, we made some modifications. We added a photo and video statement asking our volunteers not to video our scholars or take pictures of our scholars because they don't know who can and cannot be photographed. So we added that statement so everyone signs off saying that they won't do that. We changed the way that the volunteer interests are listed at schools. So instead of every school having every volunteer opportunity listed, we asked principals to select what they wanted done at their schools so that people weren't signing up for opportunities that they would never get a call for. So now at each school, you may have 3 opportunities, you may have 20 opportunities, but they are truly what schools need help with. So that is helpful for our volunteers so everyone feels like they get contacted. increase the number of schools that you can actually volunteer at. It used to be 3, now it's 4. We tried to get 5. Could not happen with our existing software, but we'll continue to work on it. And then, let's see. The other thing that we had a request for was information on race and ethnicity. People in the community were being told that we didn't have enough volunteers of color. We couldn't give them the statistics on it, so we added a field. And now you see the breakdown of the racial capacity of our volunteers, which that happened this year, and it is amazing. We do actually have very diverse volunteers. Some people chose not to indicate, so we may make that a mandatory field versus optional next year, just so we can actually capture a little bit more data on that. This is my baby. It is our department baby. It's a new opportunity that we have had to engage mentors from Winston-Salem State. And when we talk about high-impact volunteering, we look at the individuals, but we also look at meaningful ways that we can engage our community, businesses, colleges, in meaningful ways to engage with our scholars. So this year, we went to a community engagement fair at Winston-Salem State, and a professor there, Dr. Tafari, said, hey, I want to talk to you after this meeting. So we talked, and she has a program that she had been doing. It's called RAMS, Radical Academic Mentoring Services. And so we now have 33 Winston-Salem State students that come to Cook Literacy Model School as mentors. And they come every Thursday, and they spend time with our scholars. It's not about education during that time. It's just having somebody that listens to them, that loves on them, that supports them, that asks how their day is. They ask how they're feeling that day. If it's not a good day, it's okay. But they ask those questions, and they're engaging with our scholars in meaningful ways, and it is amazing, and they want to do it again. And the hope is that that model can be carried on through multiple schools. So getting colleges involved in our scholars' lives so they see themselves in the future as older academic students. I'm sorry, I got tongue-tied. But they see themselves in college. And that is such a blessing to have people engaging in meaningful ways with our scholars. So I'm going to show you a quick video, and then I will allow any questions that are necessary or needed. I don't know what to push because there's no arrow here. Is this gonna, nope. It's, nope. I don't know how to make it play. Did the video play? Okay. We're back on business.
They come to eat lunch with us. And we talk about like how we're feeling. We say our daily affirmations. Well, that's what me and my mentor do. We say our daily affirmations. And then she asks us about how our day's going.
The kids have talked about the impact that it's having on them already. A lot of them are talking about going to college, but they weren't talking about that before. Some of them are talking about what they want to do, what careers, because they've talked to them about what their majors are and what those majors entail. So it's really exciting. And it's something that has an impact that is instant and long-term, because right now they're talking about SEL and they're using those practices in class, and they're thinking about what their futures are going to look like.
Like the time where we talk and get to know each other better, and the time we get to play games. We actually talking about what school we want to go to and how we're feeling. It helps you understand what you want to do in life. It helps me think about what I want to do when I get older, what college do I want to go to, what high school do I want to go to, and it helps me think about myself in a positive way.
High impact volunteers, changing the lives of our scholars. That's one of a multitude of opportunities that we have had to engage high impact volunteers and making a difference in our scholars' life. It's being intentional. Partnering with community organizations to truly make a difference. So for those of you who are in the audience that volunteer, thank you for what you do, because you truly do make a difference. And if you're not volunteering, I can get you signed up, just call me. because we would love to have you. There's never enough hands to take care of the needs of our scholars. So thank you. If there are any questions, Mark
Any
and I are
questions?
here.
Thank you so much, Terry, Mark, and Brent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is the North Carolina Legislative Update presented by Dion Jenkins, our Legal Chief Counsel.
Good evening, Board Chair Kaplan, Vice Chair Bohannon, Superintendent McManus, and members of the board. Tonight I have for you hopefully it will not take too long, hopefully it'll be a relatively brief update about some bills that are currently pending in our General Assembly. I do want to say, just a little disclaimer, that I have just pulled some of the bills that are pending. There are dozens other that have been introduced and they're currently pending that impact education in some way. But I pulled for you some of the more talked about bills that have been pending, some that you've probably read about in the news or heard about and are impactful on education. Just to be clear as well, some of these bills might not ultimately be enacted. As you all know, there's a pretty complex, complicated process for a bill to ultimately become a law. It's introduced in the House, it goes through several iterations, it goes to committees, and then once it's finalized, it has to go to the other chamber for their review. Sometimes it's changed. Oftentimes, bills might ultimately get buried or die in a committee. And so not everything that I'm going to review for you tonight will ultimately become a law. Some of them might not. One thing that's also interesting is that some of the bills that I'm going to touch on tonight might ultimately be absorbed into an appropriations bill that will, come hopefully sooner rather than later with our budget. And so the individual bills will go away if it gets absorbed into our appropriations bill. So I wanted to just give you a couple of highlights here. As one of these speakers referenced, there are two somewhat competing parents' rights bills that are pending in our General Assembly. Senate Bill 49 was introduced by the Senate and is a little bit lengthier and more robust than the one that was introduced in the House that I'll talk about in just a minute. But it is published as an act to enumerate the rights of parents to direct the upbringing, education, health, and mental health of their minor children. So it covers education, but it also is a little bit more expansive as far as the rights of parents to make decisions in relation to their children. It covers moral and religious trainings, the ability to direct health care, access to certain information, the ability to prohibit the creation of certain documents, etc. So there's a Bill of Rights section that's in the bill, but then there's also a section that talks about legal rights specifically to education. Many of those rights are duplicative of what is included in the Bill of Rights section, but there are some additional ones that pertain specifically to education, such as access to educational information and access to information about the school district as well as their own child's academic progress. There's also some information in the bill, an emphasis on parental involvement and some directives, if it's enacted, for the district to enact policies and take certain actions to encourage more parental involvement. There's also requirements for certain information to be provided to parents on an annual basis and certain prior notifications that have to be provided to parents before, exposing children to certain health and other medical services that might be offered at the school. Additionally, this Bill of Rights would provide certain additional options for parents to request information and specific timelines for which the school should respond. And if for some reason that response isn't made within that specific time frame, it provides for an appeal process to the superintendent and potentially to the state board if there are concerns. So that was a very, very high-level overview. I do want to say, though, that if you click later on, if you want to read the full bill, if you click on the blue title there, it will take you directly to the bill so that you can read the full copy. But this bill has passed in the Senate, and it's been referred to the House for their review and consideration. It passed its first reading, and it's been referred to a House committee. Ultimately, there have to be 3 readings to pass in the House before it would either go to the governor or potentially go back to the Senate if there are significant changes made. So just wanted to give you an update of where this bill currently stands. If it is enacted within an appropriate time frame, then this would go into effect for the upcoming school year. So the House Bill of Rights for parents is actually a little bit different in that it does delineate a parent Bill of Rights, but it does not go into as much detail as the Senate version of the bill with all the additional enumerated rights. It has a Parents' Bill of Rights, which is very similar to some of the rights expressed in the Senate version of the bill, but it includes some additional things that aren't included, such as the right of parents to know the nutritional values of their child's meal, to be for their child to be in a classroom that's fully equipped with technology, for a parent to know of threats that are related to their child, either individually or to a school or community as a whole, and the ability to sit in their child's classroom within reasonable limits established by the school district. One thing that's also different about this version is that it establishes a Student's Bill of Rights. And, some of these are things that you would naturally think of that would pertain to students, but it includes the right to learn in an environment free of discrimination, to be safe and feel comfortable, to have protections, both physical and mental at school, to participate in extracurricular and after-school activities, to have affordable food options, to be provided due process in disciplinary proceedings, to be able to participate as a student in school organizational matters, and to represent themselves when it comes to educational matters that are decided by their school. So this bill has passed the first reading in the House, and it's been referred to a House Rules Committee, and so it's got to go through at least 2 more readings before it's approved by the House and then sent to the Senate for their review. So quite a little bit of time left for this bill. Next is Senate Bill 193, which I believe was referenced in one of the comments today. This is a bill that would require career development plans for all middle and high school students, and this would be mandatory. In fact, students would not be able to be promoted from 7th grade if their plan was not created, nor would they be able to be promoted from 10th grade if their plan was not reviewed and revised by that grade level. But it would require a plan to include self-assessment of their students' aptitudes, their skills, their personality, interests, and their career interests, identification of certain pathways that are aligned with that assessment, certain courses that they're supposed to take that might be aligned with those interests, and the development of a career portfolio that includes a resume and other things. The State Board of Education in this bill would be directed to establish certain rules and requirements for what these career development plans need to look like. And so the bill actually proposes a pilot program for 20 school districts in this upcoming school year, with ultimately the full rollout of this obligation to begin the following school year. So this bill has passed in the Senate and it's been referred to the House. The House, did a first reading of it and then sent it to their Rules Committee. And so if it's enacted, this upcoming year will be a pilot year for 20 identified districts, and then the following year it would go into full effectiveness. Also, just a side note, there's a version of this career development bill that's in the House Appropriations Bill that passed the House on April the 6th. The next is Senate Bill 90. This pertains to searches of a student's person. This is actually not, there was not a lot of new information that was included in this particular bill that changes the law. I would say that the newest information that was added is the requirement that if an individual student is searched based on reasonable suspicion that they have something on their, in their possession that violates law or violates policy, that it specifically has to be done in a private location, and that there has to be a school official and another adult witness in the room that's the same sex as the student that's being searched. So that's a new requirement that's included here. That requirement for a private room and the gender being the same as the student would not apply for a walkthrough search or a handheld wand search that's done, routinely for security scanning purposes. It would only be for individual searches of students. So this passed in the Senate at the end of March, and it's been referred to the House, and it's currently in a House committee. House Bill 269 is a bill that actually was enacted back in 2021 that ultimately never went anywhere. It's very similar to that bill, but it proposes to use a nationally recognized assessment of high school achievement and college readiness to replace end-of-course testing. And so under this bill, it would eliminate all end-of-course testing for grades 9 through 12 and replace that with a nationally recognized assessment that is administered only in the 11th grade. And so the results of that test would ultimately be the proficiency for students in their high school career. It also proposes to eliminate the work keys, ACT work keys for CTE students. There's also, because it eliminates the EOCs, this nationally recognized assessment and the various proficiency scores on the different subject matters of that test is what would be used to calculate school performance grades. So this bill has passed the first reading in the House. It's in the House Rules Committee. If it's enacted, it'll go into effect in the beginning of the 2024-25 school year and be used to establish school performance grades based on data from the 2024-25 school year. House Bill 206 is a bill that is intended to increase the dropout age over the course of the next 5 years. And so under this bill, this upcoming school year, the dropout age would remain the same at 16 years of age, or I should say compulsory attendance. We'll look at it from compulsory attendance as opposed to dropout, reframe our way of thinking about this. So for the upcoming school year, the age would remain the same, compulsory attendance up to age 16. And beginning in 2024, the age would increase by 6 months every year from thereafter. So by the year 2027-28, the compulsory attendance age at that point would be elevated to 18. In addition, because there's this gradual increase in compulsory attendance age, there also is a new school performance factor that accounts for student attendance and student completion. So there would be a new indicator that would factor into school performance grades that would look at the percentage of students who within 5 years of entering high school graduate, earn an adult high school diploma, or earn a high school equivalency diploma. So if this goes into effect, if this passes, this would go into effect. Obviously, in 2024 is when the age would increase. It would remain the same next year. This is still in the House. There's not been a lot of activity since the end of February, so we'll have to see what happens. House Bill 136 would actually add a high school diploma endorsement for arts, and it's up to the State Board of Education to establish the criteria for which students will be able to earn that diploma endorsement for arts. The criteria must include, at a minimum, completion of 4 arts credits with an unweighted grade point average of 3.0 or higher, completion of a minimum of 40 hours of some approved arts-related extracurricular activity that happens outside of instructional time and for which they don't already get course credit for, and then any other criteria that's established by the State Board of Education. This one passed in the House. It's been referred to the Senate. It's had their first reading, and now it's in Senate Rules Committee for further review. So if this is enacted, it would go into effect for students graduating high school beginning next school year. Senate Bill 348 is a bill that purports to require school districts to offer extended year contracts for certain teachers. The extended year means 11-month as opposed to 10-month. Right now, teachers are employed on a 10-month contract, but if you are an initial licensed teacher, a teacher in a low-performing school, a veteran teacher, or an identified mentor teacher, then the district has certain obligations to provide or offer extended year contracts. It actually would be mandatory for initial license and teachers in low-performing schools, and it would be we're required to offer optional extended year contracts for veteran teachers and mentor teachers. And during this 11th month, there are certain things that the bill purports to have individuals do during that time. So for example, initial licensed teachers must work with mentor teachers and or participate in professional development that ultimately helps build their skills, as well as supporting extended year instruction for students. For low-performing school teachers and veteran teachers, it's up to the district in their discretion to determine what duties they're going to do during this 11th month. And mentor teachers are required to provide professional development support for initial licensed teachers or otherwise help support extended learning for students. This passed first reading in the Senate. It's currently sitting in a Senate review committee. But if it is enacted within a timely manner, it would go into effect this upcoming school year. House Bill 187 is another example of a bill that's gotten a lot of media attention in recent weeks. But this is a bill that's actually very, very similar to a bill that was introduced in 2021. At that time, it was entitled House Bill 324, Ensuring Dignity and Non-Discrimination in Schools, but it's been retitled as the Equality in Education Bill. And this act would prevent school districts from what they call promoting certain concepts in schools. And that is that, one race is superior to another, one sex is superior to another, that individuals should be discriminated on the basis of their, sex or their race, that individuals should be punished for acts of individuals from years ago, that sort of thing. Very, very similar to the previous bill that was introduced, but it would prevent the quote-unquote promotion of these concepts in schools. And what they mean by promote is to compel students, teachers, administrators, or other school employees to affirm or profess a belief in these particular concepts. It also requires that certain prior notices be provided to parents as well as DPI before providing any instruction related to these concepts or contracting with any consultants or any speakers who plan to discuss these concepts or who in the past have advocated for or against any of the concepts that are outlined in the Act. The Act does have some exclusions, though. It states that it would not apply to speech that is protected by the First Amendment. It also would not apply to schools utilizing certain course materials that are part of the curriculum or the standard course of study that will reference some of the concepts or other supplemental materials that will reference it, as far as the studying of these concepts in a historical concept. It also would not prohibit an individual from accessing these materials on their own individual basis, not as a part of some sort of academic component. And it would not prevent, the district from stating or allowing the study or review of these materials for educational purposes, as long as they make it clear that they do not sponsor, approve, or endorse the concept or the work. So this passed the House on March 23rd. It's been referred to the Senate, so it's totally left the House and it's in the Senate now for review, and it's in a Rules Committee pending further action. House Bill 336, I think, is a good bill. This actually would purport to, not to say that any of the other bills aren't good, but I think this is a good one. This is a bill that would, I'm not speaking on any bill, I promise. But this is a bill that actually would add one full-time permanent nurse in every single school. And it would actually require recurring funds to be appropriated to support this increase in allotment. So this is a positive thing. This has passed the first reading in the House, and it's been referred to a House Appropriations Committee. If it's enacted, it would go into effect for the upcoming school year. Just a little caveat, there's another House bill that's been introduced as well that would modify the requirements for school nurses. They would not have to have any sort of national certification. They would only have to have an RN and 2 years of experience either in a hospital or a health clinic in order to serve as a school nurse. And I think the purpose of that is to increase the qualifications of individuals who are able to serve as school nurses. Senate Bill 432 would purport to allow other additional reasons for K through 3 class size waivers. It would allow us to request a waiver based on a shortage of qualified licensed teachers available to teach at that grade level for the number of classrooms that are required for that school, or if there's inadequate classroom space or facilities that would otherwise require expansion, construction, or relocation. So it increases our ability to request class size waivers if it's enacted. This was interesting that pertains specifically to our district. Senate Bill 323 would provide for $35 million in non-recurring funds, specifically for the renovation and construction costs of Ashley Elementary. So this one was actually introduced by Senator Lowe, and it's currently pending in the Senate Appropriations Committee for review. Before I go to the next bill, I do want to note that there were, I believe, 2 statewide and 23 local calendar flexibility bills that have been filed. Overall, they impact almost half of the school districts in the state. And so I think statistically speaking, there's a reasonable likelihood that there might be some changes in the law with regard to calendar flexibility. But House Bill 106 specifically references Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, and it would allow us to start our school year as early as August 11th, still ending at the same time of the Friday closest to June 11th. And if our calendar included ending the first semester by December 31st, it would also allow us to administer semester exams prior to that date. So this is currently pending in the Senate. It's passed the House, and so the Senate has referred it to a Rules Committee for further review. Senate Bill 406 is the Choose Your School, Choose Your Future bill. I won't go into a whole lot of detail just in interest of time, but essentially this would expand the Opportunity Scholarship Voucher Program to probably to the widest point that it's ever been. Instead of having specific income qualifications, this would allow any parent to be able to request funds based on a sliding scale as determined by your household income. So the higher your household income, the lesser amount that you'd be able to request, but you still will be able to request some funding for it. So this has passed first reading in the Senate. It's been referred to the Senate Education Committee. There's been no action since the end of March. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that one. House Bill 174 is a bill that was introduced a couple of months ago that would purport to stagger the election terms of Winston-Salem Forsyth County board members. Beginning in 2026, all positions would be up for election, and depending upon the number of votes that the candidates receive would determine what the length of your initial term. So in District 1, there would continue to be 2 members that are elected. The highest vote recipient would get a 4-year term that would end in 2030 and then would be up for election every 4 years thereafter. The second highest vote getter would get an initial 2-year term, and then in 2028, a 4-year term if they're reelected. So it's meant to kind of stagger the terms so that there's, every 2 years or so, there's another election for positions. The same for District 2. The 2 highest vote getters would get an initial 4-year term that's renewable every 4 years. And then the 3rd and 4th highest vote getters would get an initial 2-year term, but then after that, it would be 4 years. And then at-large members, the 1st and 2nd highest vote getters would get a 4-year term, and the 3rd highest vote getter would get an initial 2-year term, but then 4 years thereafter. So this passed the House on March the 8th. It's been referred to the Senate for consideration. It's currently sitting in Senate Rules Committee for review. House Bill 219 is the Charter School Omnibus Bill, and this bill is intended to make various changes to the law affecting charter schools. However, for purposes of our update, I'll focus on the financial component of it. It does, factually speaking, it does purport to make a significant impact on how public schools are required to share funding with charter schools. Previously, the statute allowed for a pretty good list of funds that come to public schools that the schools can put in a restricted account. Well, those, with the exception of 3 of the items on that list, those restrictions are going away. And so on the screen here are examples of the revenues and funding sources that public schools receive that they would now have to share with charter schools on a per pupil ratio. So that includes federal reimbursements, which is, these are things that we were reimbursed for, that we've actually paid for, that we would have to pay a portion of reimbursements for charter schools, which is kind of like double dipping a little bit. Other indirect costs, tuition fees that the board receives, any sales tax refunds, pre-K funds, even if the charter school doesn't provide a pre-K program, gifts and grants that the district receives that are restricted as to use, fines and forfeitures, other federal appropriations made directly to the district, any type of municipal appropriations, as well as fund balances that roll over from year to year. This bill also would allow charter schools to solicit directly the county commissioners for capital outlays as well. So this passed its first reading in the House, and it's been referred to the House Rules Committee. It's not had any action since the beginning of March, but if enacted, it would become effective in this upcoming school year. And I know that there's been some outreach from some organizations with regard to the bill just because of the impact of it. And so if you are interested in more information about that, I can certainly share. I know the North Carolina School Boards Association has issued, resolutions with regard to this bill and some talking points and things to help kind of educate the boards and educate constituents about the real impact of this bill if it's enacted. So that was a very quick overview of some of the major bills. I have a couple of quick highlights on some other notable bills that are pending. House Bill 150 would allow parents to kind of have their choice of nurse health providers if having a nurse is required as a part of their child's IEP, even if it's a private outside nurse. House Bill 188 would encourage schools to adopt policies that support students who are suspended out of school so that, to mitigate learning loss as much as possible. And it actually discourages punishment that removes students from buildings. It encourages school districts to use in-school suspension as much as possible as opposed to out-of-school suspension. House Bill 366 would restore master's pay for teachers and other instructional support personnel to the point where it was in 2013. There's also a provision in the House Appropriations Bill as well that would restore master's pay for teachers to the previous version of that policy. House Bill 280 would allow districts, it would actually reinstate a COVID-19 measure that was implemented that allowed districts to rehire retired teachers full-time without penalties to that teacher from the North Carolina retirement system. So this actually reinstates that position for us to be able to rehire retired teachers and place them in high-needs schools. House Bill 142 increases penalties for school personnel who engage in inappropriate relationships with students. It actually increases the felony up to a higher level for criminal punishment. Senate Bill 302 actually would appropriate $5.7 billion that DPI would disperse to districts on a formula basis that is intended to actually improve energy efficiency in school buildings, install solar panels, and replace older buses that run on fuel with newer electric buses. So I thought that was interesting. House Bill 478 allows districts to request grant funding to help defray the extraordinary expenses related to placement of some students in non-public facilities. And then last but not least, House Bill 259, which is the appropriations bill that was approved by the House earlier this month. And like I said, some of the provisions that I've talked about have been absorbed into this bill, but the bill still has a long way to go. It's been sent to the Senate, it's passed the House, it's been sent to the Senate. They've got to go through their review process. Likely the Senate will make some changes to that bill, and then it'll have to go back to the House for review. And if they can't agree on the terms, a conference committee will have to meet to see if they can come to a resolution about the bill. So this budget bill still has a little ways to go before it's finalized. But, and I haven't read the entire bill, it's 400 pages, but there are a few provisions that I wanted to just make you aware of. It proposes to actually reduce class sizes for 4th and 5th grade. So we have K through 3 class size restrictions now. It would purport to reduce 4th and 5th grade class sizes to 1 to 24. There's also some academic transparency provisions and some new information about selection of some new processes for selection of instructional materials. It purports to raise teacher pay on average 10.2% over 2 years and 7.5% on average for other classified employees over 2 years, an additional 2% bump for bus drivers. There's additional funds for increasing school nurses, school psychologists, social workers, and counselors, additional grants for school safety, and then it incorporates the expansion of the Opportunity Scholarship Program. So more to come on the appropriations bill, I'm sure, but it is in the Senate now, and so I'm sure we'll be seeing more about that in the coming weeks. And so with that, I wanted to just take a break and see if there's any questions about any of the bills that I've summarized for you, and then wanted to kind of, tender the floor back to the board to see if there was any discussion about, developing any sort of legislative agenda or priorities, or even discussing that at some point at a future meeting.
Yes.
Deanne, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for this summary. I think it's very needed for us today. I would like to see or suggest perhaps 2 things. One, as a board, we can convene and have a greater discussion on these topics so we can decide on what our next steps are. And also to see, we know there are other advocacy groups out there that are supporting North Carolina School Board of Education and some other groups out there. How can we levy their support and our support together as we move forward on the agenda items? And thirdly, I know we meet often with our state, with our representatives who are local, but how can we also influence the bigger, broader picture? Because we know our state representatives make up a very small majority of the total number. So how can we also begin to look at that, the entire legislature, and how we can move forward on voicing our concerns about any of these bills, plus or negative? But I would love for us to meet as a board to have a greater discussion and maybe a quote workshop on these matters, because there are many of these, well, I'll say my opinion for later, but there are many of these bills that we really need to address.
Board Member Kuhn?
I think it's really important that we do meet, whether it's a workshop or however we do it, to talk. And I also think it's very important that we nail down some of our legislative priorities and really seriously put together our legislative priorities and agenda and talk about a lobbyist. Like, it is time that we get someone who, I understand the importance of coming alongside and locking arms with other groups that are lobbying and going forth, but I think we need someone who is going to go on our behalf and lobby our interest, and I think it's time that we do that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tommy Krantz, our Chief Financial Officer, will present the proposed budget for 2023-2024.
As Mr. Krantz comes up, because I'm going to start us off and then turn it over to him for the bulk of this, but I'm going to start us off. But before I do, he has 3 of his staff members in the audience. I will just tell you, this first iteration that you're getting tonight says draft all over it. It has not been released yet. After tonight's meeting, based on some of your comments, it'll go then public, and Tommy will go over that for you. But it has been, they've been working on the budget pretty much all year, and it's been definitely a team effort of many, many meetings. Meetings with the board, a couple of financial meetings with every department, gathering feedback from schools, and then a lot of time invested. So I just could Linda, Nadine, and Lynn stand, please, really quickly, as part of Tommy's team that are here tonight. So I had to say that, and Tommy, their leader that has also spends countless hours, has more numbers in his head than you can imagine, and just is constantly bringing me more data and information. And so tonight, you're going to get this. I'm just going to start us off on the first slide. So if somebody would just advance to the first one. Okay. So in the beginning of your book, which is right behind the overview, it says overview. There is a letter, basically an opening statement from me about what is in this budget proposal. And as Tommy will explain, we're really, tonight is really about what we're going to be taking to our local commissioners as far as our request. But the budget is all of our budgets. And so I wanted to highlight, I wanted to start out because there is a process to what we decide to fund in our district. And it's based on initiatives that have the greatest impact and are necessary to receive funding support. And so basically, our 23-24 proposed budget, that's what it's about. It's about looking at our 5 goals that we base everything around, our 5 strategic plan goals, which are part of that. But also, we have 3 main priorities, and I've outlined that in that first letter. So if you look at that on the first page, page 1, it starts with instruction. Priority 2 is culture, and priority 3 is talent. And so if you look at the instruction bucket, you're going to see a lot of what we've been talking about over time, and you're also going to hear a lot more about what's in place around instruction when we have our workshop around Goal 1 and Goal 2. And so basically, if you look at this paragraph, and it's a little bit lengthy, I'm a little bit wordy because there's so much important information, and so this is a long letter. But I wanted to highlight a few things. Some of the things you're going to see in there are educational resources that are aligned to state standards, quality materials and instructional tools that are culturally responsive, aligned to state standards, and rigorous. You're going to see a focus on K-3 literacy. You're going to see a focus on professional development for teachers, teacher leaders, classified staff around instruction. You're going to see professional development, planning, around behavioral interventions and academic interventions to better support students being served through exceptional education and multi-language learner programs. You're going to see the strengthening of magnet programs. You're going to see strengthening of CTE pathways, the implementation of our African American infusion lessons, and you're going to see a continued emphasis on funding for early childhood for all. So those in the instructional bucket are all things that you will see captured within the details of the budget. In culture, you're going to see a continued emphasis on providing increased mental health supports, social emotional learning, restored and trauma-informed practices, resources around health, and outreach to families. You're going to also see a continued focus moving into our second year of our Code of Character, Conduct, and Support, which is about addressing discipline disparities and also just improving the culture within our schools for all of our students. You're going to see things like tutoring opportunities, access to enrichment, before and after school programs, extracurriculars, mentoring, and hands-on experiences through field trips. You're going to see school safety outlined, efficiency with transportation, clean and well-maintained facilities, and also just quality, well-rounded instruction for our children. And so what we say in these areas is you can't have instruction's critical, but you have to have that culture just as prioritized, the areas of culture, as we think about our students. And last but not least, neither of those two will be achieved without a focus on talent. So the other major component in our budget is our focus on investing in our employees. And so you're going to see work to increase compensation, not just for our instructional staff, but for our classified staff, and that's called out, as Tommy will show you in just a little bit. You're going to see a focus on professional development, coaching of staff, career ladder opportunities, future teacher and leader programs and partnerships, emphasis on growing our own teachers through our cadet programs, residencies, other workforce preparation programs. You're going to see a focus on our teacher and leader pipelines, because what we really believe is it's going to be through the work of our 7,000 adults in our system that we will best serve our 53,000 students in our system. And so those three priorities are the focus. Those three priorities around instruction, culture, and talent will not change, but we will continue to make adjustments to the strategies as we hear the input from our stakeholders and stakeholder groups. All of these areas are aligned to our 5 goals. And also, one last thing I wanted to mention, as we think about our schools with the highest needs, part of our approach here is creating an equitable approach to resourcing with our schools being tiered. And our top-tier schools, you will see things that are related to differential compensation and other ways to attract top talent to our schools that need our very best. The very last paragraph in this letter, which is on the bottom of page 2, basically says an investment in our students is an investment in the future of our community. So that is basically a little bit of a synopsis of things that you will see throughout this budget, but I'll turn it over to Tommy now to talk about the process and to talk about some of the specific amounts that we are requesting from our local county commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. McManus and the school board. What I'm going to do is not going to go through a bunch of reading of slides. It's just kind of introduce you to this book and what you've got inside the book to help you understand the overall funding that this district has and the decisions that need to be made. Because by law, I have to get an appropriation each and every year. I can't automatically carry things over. It all has to go through the appropriation process. It starts at an invoice. Before an invoice or a contract or anything can be incurred by somebody in the district, it has to go through what they call a pre-audit process. That pre-audit process has to be done through the finance office, and you certify individually that the funds are in place for that particular expenditure. If they're not, you can't incur. You have to have the appropriation process, and it is a process. And I hate process. I'll just tell you that on the front end. But I understand them, and there's a real need for it. And the reason for this is at the end of the day, you will see that our budget going into this year is $900 million. It's a billion-dollar business. Okay? And it has all the components of a business. We don't bill and collect on taxes, but other than that, we manage cash, we invest cash, we pay bills, we process payroll for over 8,000 employees twice a month, every month of the year. So there's a lot that goes on, and it is a very complex organization. And so I want to give you an understanding as you look at the challenges, because at the end of the day, I don't know of a school system or a business that ever has enough money. And that will be what you're going to see tonight. You have, as Ms. McManus, very difficult decisions to make on how you want to allocate the limited dollars that the district has. It sounds like you have all the money in the world, and you do not. Let me just say that unequivocally, okay? You have a lot, but you don't have enough. So as we start this, understand in our world, it's fund accounting. Fund accounting says you look at where your revenue source is basically coming from. And in our case, there's three main funding sources. There's federal, there's county, and there's state. What you've got tonight is more on just the local component, the county component. We are waiting on what's going to happen with the state. That's still being developed. We've made some assumptions as we've asked for what we think we need to ask for the county to move forward with that part of our budget. But this process will be going on for the next 3 months, okay? It won't be finalized until sometime in June, at probably the earliest. So it is an ongoing, and that's why we put your reports in a binder. These binders, we're going to update the sheets. We're going to give you at the end a truly final budget book. But it's going to change, and it doesn't do me a lot of good to spend money binding things and making them nice and pretty when I know it's going to change. And so that's why we put it in a binder, and we ask you to please keep your binder. We're going to keep getting it updated for you as we go through this process. Okay? The budget itself, this budget's been what they call a traditional approach. A traditional approach says this: if I've got a $100 million salary and you do a 4% raise, we add $4 million to it, budget's done. That's a traditional budget process. There's no analysis. There's no really review, understanding where are my dollars being spent? Am I making the best return on that investment I'm making with that expenditure? Am I achieving the goals and objectives of the organization? That's not really done. It's done more of, the budget's an exercise, let's just get it done, okay? And that's how this district, and as most districts, have done it. What we've done this year is try to go back to what's called a priority or zero-based budget. That budget says, as an organization, your priorities, your needs are going to change from year to year to year to year. And you need to make decisions on how best to achieve those goals and objectives with the limited dollar that you have. That's really priority budgeting in a nutshell. And so we went to that. We asked and worked with our cabinet and our senior leadership team and received back from them data on what personnel, additional personnel they wanted, what changes that they want to make on all of their non-personnel expenses. We look at our expenses in 3 buckets: salary, benefit costs, and then non-personnel. The non-personnel is where you start having some discretion in how you want to spend things, but it's not all. All that's in non-personnel is not available for that. So we'll talk about that as we get further into the book. So at the end of the day, we've gone to this, we've gotten the input. We spend on a non-personnel basis right at $35 million last year, okay? All the stakeholders asked for another $35 million. There's not $70 million available in the budget, okay? So, and Ms. McManus has been the biggest advocate for more money, more money, more money, because the needs are great. And I agree, the needs are far greater than what we've got, the dollars we've got for it, okay? So we'll go on. We broke this thing down, as y'all have seen before, on the state funds, and you look at, on that pie chart, 95% of every dollar in state funds is spent on salary and wages and benefits. That's consistent in comparing us to the other large districts. They run from about 93.5 to as high as 96%. I'd love to be at 96% because what that does is the state on the teacher side gives us a position, not a dollar. So if we go, and their average was $51,000 for their average teacher salary. The more people I can put on state, that frees up dollars locally. Almost every single position in our district, the only exception will be federal. But every district is funded, generally every person has got two funding sources, especially if you're a teacher. You're gonna have your base, which could be state or local, but your supplements are all local. Okay? So when we talk about it's all in one place or the other, understand we generally are in two places in many cases. The only exception to that is some of our federal programs. We look at our federal funds, and you'll notice in the budget, I broke out ESSER from federal because ESSER 2 goes away September 30th of this year. ESSER 3 goes away on September 30th, and by September 30th of 2024, when I say it goes away, it means every check has to have been written, cleared, every invoice received, all contracts in order. You're ready for an audit on October 1st. That's how they've been very adamant about that. So we're going to shoot for June 30th, cut off with the fiscal year, and then use that 90 days to make sure all of our files are in place to begin the audit, because we, in all likelihood, will be selected for an audit because of our size, is what we anticipate. Here, you'll notice that on the federal fund side, our salary and benefits are running right at 77% of every dollar that's spent. We get to the ESSER funds, and you notice these are all 22. This shows you how we actually use those funds. And you can see the bulk here, 37% went to salary and benefits. However, ESSER gave us that flexibility to expand and go for things that we didn't have the dollars for in the past. Again, those dollars are going to be ending on us come June 30th of 2024. So we'll have one more fiscal year, and then it is gone. The local fund, so we get down to what we've got. You see on the very left-hand side toward the bottom, charter schools. We pay out approximately $10 million right now a year to the charter schools. What the bill that Dion described, we basically take a piece of some of the other costs that we've got in that pie chart and give the charter schools a piece of it. For us, our student count would remain the same. The population of the students would remain the same. So it only does one thing to us. It takes dollars that we currently are using to meet our needs for the students of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County away from us and puts it into the charter schools. It's that simple. They'll argue about the language, but at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. If you back out charter schools, our percentage of salary and benefits of the total budget rises up to 80+%. You look, you've got pupil transportation costs, that's fixed. Unless we're going to change something drastically, and that's, the service is there, people expect it. We've got maintenance costs. With the number of buildings we have, we're going to have maintenance needs, be it repair roofs, replace roofs, HVAC systems, just go down the line. We have custodial, we have the custodial side. As Lauren described to the committee earlier, with the new contract, there's an increase in the level of service that they're supposed to provide by contract. Those are some interest, there's an increase in the dollars we're going to spend for custodial services to achieve those increased level of service. Utilities. Right now, utilities are split between two funds, Fund 2, which is local, and then Fund 8, which is other. As a district, some of our money that belongs to general fund goes into Fund 8, and all of Fund 8 is really general. But the majority of the money that's in Fund 8 is the grants. We have over 100 grants right now that we account for every single day inside this district. That's a lot of complexity, and every grant's different. And then you get to the charter schools. So you can see on other costs, which is at $19 million and 12%, you think, okay, I've got a lot of money. Well, first off, the first thing you'll have to consider is that we do instructional allotments, and that was part of the budget process. That's about $3 million. Take that off the top. Now you're down to 16 million. We also do stipends. We do supplements. In the salary, the conversation will be is all that is spent on people, and it's really, really high. But a lot of our personnel get supplements. We got the supplements because we want to be competitive in the marketplace. It's not a waste of money, but it's to a select group. They get a supplement. We spent in FY '22 on supplements alone, $40 million. That was our payment. You backed at 40 out of the 110, and now you're down to truly what the salary of individuals are getting. Okay? And I say that because there'll be discussions on what your average costs are. I mean, I've already heard some of the discussions and conversations. It's fair to have it, just I want to make sure we're all talking apples and apples. So the governor's budget proposed a 10% raise, and right now, I would agree that's not going to be the raise. But that's still the only thing official that we've seen. So we've developed the budget with the 10%, but you'll also see the budget at the different percentages that could go down to. The retirement rate, and we'll talk about this. You see, we pay right now 24.5%. Of every dollar we pay out, we add that and pay to the state. They want to add 0.62. That doesn't sound like a lot. However, when you start talking about an overall salary budget between state, local, and federal this year, $443 million. That's our overall salary budget between those three funds. Take 0.67 on that, and it's a significant dollar amount. We're a large system with large dollars, and things add up very quick. If you look at, and of course I get out of whack with going just through the thing and not using my notes. But if you look under your trends and statistics tab, so it gives me a chance to introduce you to the book, but also give you some statistical information. If you look, you've got a 6-year enrollment comparison by grade level. What you see is that our ADM is going down. It's not plummeting, but it's on a downward track. With the ADM going lower, we need to be anticipating that our state revenues will be going lower as well. Okay? You look on 2 pages behind that, you'll see that our economically disadvantaged students percentage is going up. As that occurs, one would expect that the services the district needs to provide will increase, putting a drain on dollars to fund those services that are needed and are required. So what it ends up doing is, as you see this happen, you'll see your our EC student population is going up. As we see things change within the student population mix, let me call it, those dollars that we sent in the past are going to have to go to other places to meet all the legal requirements different than we've done before. What it will result in is fewer dollars in the general fund for you to spend, because you're going to have to direct them for specific purposes. That's what we're facing. A declining enrollment that will have an impact on the state budget, state revenues growth. And then number 2, the change in the mix of students inside of our district. So in order to maximize this, the key is being certain that we utilize the state budget as best as we can and get everything on it. And it sounds like it's a game, and it really is a financial game. And that way, it'll free up as much dollars as possible locally that gives you the greatest flexibility in how you want to spend those dollars. Okay? The House budget, as they said, Dion said, it's a 5% raise. As I understand it, they're going to maintain the current rate on retirement, and the current rate on the insurance side. The next slide gives you an idea of the budget. So we start off the budget with the adopted budget for '23, which was $156.7 million. We had one event that has occurred. You've seen 6 budget amendments this year, but only one is recurring, and that's $2.097 million, which was an increase in Article 46 tax revenues. That then creates our base. We then say, okay, if we do a 10% raise, a 10% increase is $10.3 million. The retirement that's going to be tied to that plus everybody else is another $2.7 million. FICA is $861,000. Health insurance is $1.1 million, giving us a total, as I call it, items per the state budget at a 10% raise is $14.9 million. We add in the request, as we've developed in the budget, as I said, we had $35 million. There was about $5 million between custodial, maintenance, transportation, and utilities that we thought we would count maybe as a need, not a want. But when you looked at development of the budget, we felt like that probably wasn't realistic, and there was other things that I could do in looking at actual costs over a 6-year period of time, that maybe our budget was a little bit high, you know, what we were projecting. And so we did some adjustment downwards that basically eliminated those items with the exception of one that we will be requesting. The total request from the county is the $14.9 million plus a $2 million for custodial. As we said earlier, with the custodial contract and the level of service, there is an increase in cost. And we're projecting out right at $2 million. So the total we would ask the county is 16.9. A year ago, we asked for a little over $13 million. We received right at 6. So that kind of gives you an idea. If you look at the history over the last 17 years, the amount we've received from the county is about $2.3 million. The increase. That's been the increase. The highest of Mr. Bohannon is looking at me, so that's why that's kind of. If you look at a curve, a graph, which we gave in one of the earlier books, you see it doing a gradual, and then in the last 2 years, it's gone up. But the jump is Article 46. Article 46 is generating $19 million. But Article 46 is going right out in supplement. So you need to adjust that, because when we look at, when we look at how we do for 8,000 plus employees, it does put a strain, a significant strain. But on average, for 17 years, it's been 2.2 million. Our initial draft on this schedule here was $25 million. And that's not what Ms. McManus wanted to see, but we started with that because it had carried over some things on classified employees and trying to address compression issues that are out there, that you'll see we've got a nice plan how to address that, I think. So the budget
Mr. Kranz, can I just say, I wanted to see the 25 million. I just wanted to be realistic.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry.
On what we might be.
I'm sorry. No, we both agreed on that. No, it's both of us. So there's some real things that did make it into this budget. And if any of you want to ever see what every department gave us, you're more than welcome to, because it's about this thick. But it's very easy reading, to be honest with you. Student and staff computer refresh. If we want to maintain a 4-year life cycle, it's $5 million a year. Staff's about 1.4, students are about 3.6. That didn't make it. Maintenance needs were about $22 million. Correct, Lynn? I think I'm right. It's about 22. And I'll guarantee you, having been a COO, they're real. Their needs are real. Aging facilities, they're out there. But that increase just wasn't doable. You see the funds to address the aging facilities, that's real. That's gonna be both capital and Fund 2 as well, which is small capital basically, as well as maintenance and repair dollars. Those are real, those are significant. If you look at industry standards, the investment in a building should be, on a commercial side, would be about $1.50 a square foot. You go look at what we spend maintenance-wise square foot, it's less than 50 cents. If you want to have a building last 50 years, and the Council for Great City Schools published the statement I'm gonna make next, you have to invest 2% of your replacement value in that building per year. Now, that includes your debt and new construct, but 2%. I haven't run those numbers, but I don't believe we're at 2%, but that's what the Council of Great City Schools publishes from districts similar to us. The state business modernization, the AS 400 is going away. We have to move from that system to another accounting system. We're looking at somewhere probably between $3 and $5 million. That's not here. Athletics, looking at expanding the middle school. Another one was the SRO. $600,000 of that came from the county. That's an increase on our cost for athletic events having security. Our systems, our schools do not have the gates to cover that. So if we're gonna offer it, who's gonna have to step in? The district. That's gonna become another drain on the system. That's not accounted in this budget. The instructional services team, textbooks, we've got some adoptions to do. And we honestly need to have Paula and I need to work together, which we work together very well, to develop a plan. But our needs as a system is great on textbooks. And that's not unusual. You know, the other districts I've come from, textbooks seems to be the thing you just kind of push to the side and hope I'll get to it later. They're there. Professional development. They do a lot of professional development, but there's still the need to continue to refine your skill sets so that we get the best returns. We have some subscriptions. We do a lot on technology within, and Paula's team does a good job with the technology, but we have real costs sitting in there. The expansion of pre-K. Today, pre-K does not cover its costs. We are in a hole. We'll give you a separate report on that. But there's a real need. I'm a big believer in pre-K, and there's a real need to expand it. But that's going to take additional dollars above what the state provides us. The exceptional children, those needs are great. We're trying to keep as much as we can within federal, because under maintenance of effort, every dollar we put into the local side is there forever, basically. Okay? So we need to be very within the law, but be very frugal on how we spend. I was interested to see, going through the policies of this district, they lay out how I should spend money, and federal's number one. So it kind of fits where we talk about here on the EC. It meets exactly. Use the federal that we can, and then look at state, and then look at local funds.
Mr. Kranz, before you continue, just to be very clear about the challenges. So these things are funded, they're just, we requested additional funds that we
Yes,
could
ma'am.
not, so remember when we said we wanted 25 million, but we're asking for 16 million? There was a lot more in there that we want to do.
Correct.
So
I'm
again.
sorry, I didn't make
No,
that
no,
clear.
I just want to make sure that it's not that these things are not found within, we have a lot of professional development within the budget. We've got instructional materials within the budget,
Right.
but we need more.
Above.
We need
Above
above that. So I just want to make sure that everyone was clear on what that meant.
So sort of to that, while we're just on it, I just want to make sure. So as an example, the previous slide, are all of those things included in the current, like without the request, are what's funded on that list?
Well,
None.
we have professional development.
Yeah,
There's a lot of professional development we do as a district.
right.
We have pre-K that we do today and fund some portion of it out of local funds. We offer the EC services that meet the definition of law Where the needs are here is as that population grows, as we have a declining enrollment with the ADM, then local funds get smaller. Now there's a competition between dollars that was being spent locally that you may need to direct to your EC program. You follow me?
Yeah.
So that's when I say that they're not budgeted. It's that change between what's there today. So what we spend today, non-personnel, is $35 million. There's $35 million in the budget for non-personnel expenses. That didn't change. The request above and beyond that 35 was another $35 million. These are some of the high-level requests that make up the $35 million request that we just weren't able to get, that additional items weren't able to get into the budget.
Okay.
So, two things that have been a staple of this district while Ms. McManus has been here, but I think even before, was how do you remain with your, particularly our teachers, get better in the marketplace? So a lot of effort's been put with that, with supplements and other programs. But then classified employees kind of got left a little bit to the side. And last year, the request was made for classified employees compression was requested from the county of $4.34 million. The county elected not to fund that request, that portion of our request. What we're trying to come up with is a plan, and we've got it in the sheets, that through managing our existing resources, we're able to free up dollars, and I'll use my department as the best example. So I've taken 7 positions that were either vacant when I started or became vacant because somebody moved for another opportunity. In my opinion, we were overstaffed. With those changes, we're still getting everything done. Okay? So those dollars are in our recurring budget. And let's just use for round numbers $400,000, okay? So what this plan does is says, let's take those positions, now again, there's nobody in it, so nobody's losing a job. Take those dollars in the budget and let's move it to the side. So it's always in the recurring numbers, in the 156 million that raised up to 158. We take that $400,000, we set it on the side. It's like a piggy bank. It's in the budget. It's not going to go away. We will identify it as we show you on the sheets to you. And once you build up enough, you can start addressing your compression. You can address the differential pay. If we're going to compete with the Charlottes and the Guilfords and the Waits that have a bigger tax base than we do. I mean, you look at, we're third largest employer in this, and that's in our trends stack, and I'm sorry I missed that one. But we're the third largest employer in the area. Atrium and Novan are first. Neither one pay property tax, basically. Who's fourth behind us? Wake Forest, they don't pay property tax. So out of the top 4 employers in this district, in this community, nobody pays property tax. Well, guess what? That's a significant part of all the other areas' revenue streams. It makes it difficult for us as a county to compete with other counties. It's not because county government's bad people and they don't want to fund schools. It's the revenue base we're all working with is different than a lot of our competition surround us, which puts us very difficult to try to be equal to it. But the differential pay plan, if we do it for hard-to-staff schools and other criteria that, you know, y'all on the academic side are much better at saying it than I am. Over time, we'll get to a solid number. You can see that between finance, HR, communications, and instruction, there's 13 positions that are all vacant that will move to the pot, let's call I know that's not the right term, but I'm at it. Those annual costs are $1.3 million. So what we're saying is you don't spend it. You accumulate it and the administration will work with Ms. McManus, and those dollars become the bank. And when you do use it, it goes right into your budget. It's already in your budget. It's already recurring. So you're not trying to find new money. Now, what somebody may say is you're just kind of pigeonholing it. That's not the intent. This is specific needs. It's specifically for the classified compression. And it's specifically for the salary differential. I mean, those are two real needs, two very specific. So, you know, the argument that you're just holding it to hold it, that is not true. Okay? This is intended to grow, save, and then eventually make the right, like we would do when we all first get married, save money, and then make purchases, try to reduce the debt. Here's kind of the same thing. We're saving our money so we can make those purchases at the right time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay?
And the compensation committee, that is a district level, has been looking at classified pay. And so that group makes the decisions on, okay, what group are we going to address next? And it's all done on market rate. So if we were to bring up our, I know recently we looked at our lead secretaries, and we did an analysis, and basically it was individual, looking at everybody and their experience, and making adjustments there. That's what we mean here. So with the committee, like if we were to look at mechanics, I'll just give that example. We'll do a market rate analysis. How much could they make if they went to private industry? How much do they make in surrounding districts? What would that look like? And then we'll bring that back to the board. That process will continue. We started that process 2 years ago, and we actually at that time made an increase. It wasn't much, but it was a slight increase. Again, not enough, but for TAs, we did bus drivers that year. We've done child nutrition managers. So the next groups will continue that process. And so that 1.3 million is what we've been able to absorb back as we have just not filled certain positions, collapsed roles, merged responsibilities. Again, always keeping in mind, I know some of you have asked, is that adding too much on a workload of someone else? But we've been doing it very intentionally so that it does not do that. It's just really trying to free up our own dollars to be able to make to address compression and to address the salaries of our classified staff. That's one of your priorities. That's our priority together. So we're going to continue to look for those savings that we can make to be able to do that.
So next steps, so I'll leave you with this statistical information first. The 10% pay increase was $14.9 million. If we only do a 5% pay increase, that 14.9 changes to 7.34 million. So you can see a significant change. And so then the amount requested from the county, which is currently at $16 million, would drop to $9 million. So just to give you some, and we've calculated it by each percentage, but that seems to be either 10, which seems high, or 5. So that just gives you a parameter. Next steps. So on May 11th, we need to present to the county commissioners our budget. So working backwards from that, April 25th is your next meeting. I would recommend placing that on the agenda just for more public comments. What we've done in other districts, we've used it for public comments. It gives the public, they're seeing the budget for the first time tonight as well, so they get to stress what their needs, desire, and wants are. Number two, it also gives you an opportunity that as you're going through the book, if you don't have enough data and you want more, it gives us time to pull that together and get that presented to you to keep the process going. On May 9th, that meeting, and you've also got in between meetings, again, it's a tight time frame. I understand it's a big budget. It gives you time to hold any meetings you may need to, or just time to work with the staff so we can pull things together, okay? Mm-hmm. May 9th, public comments, address any questions that y'all as a board may have. that would be the recommendation. It's a vote on the superintendent's request for county funding at that time. And then the superintendent and I will present, with your approval, present that to county government on May 11th. Any questions?
You know, when it comes to our ADM, have you guys researched or know why our ADM is trending low or trending down?
It changed, if you look at the history of it.
Right.
It changed right before COVID, pretty much with COVID. You know, we were a slight up, and we kind of held that. It wasn't a great curve, but, you know, it was a slight increase, and we were holding it. And then COVID came, and we just haven't bounced back, I guess. That's what it appears to me, when you look at the history. I can't tell you.
We're
Huh?
projected to
Yeah.
anyway.
Projected to bounce back.
Yeah, 52, I see 52,000.
I mean, it's not,
It's not a lot, but I think, it's higher than it
Yeah.
was the past
well,
few years.
but the thing about it is, if you get too optimistic in your budget, at the end of the year, it gets to be, at the end of the year, you can't spend more than that's what we got dinged in the audit, was appropriations greater than a fund balance. You can't have appropriations greater than what's been appropriated. And that means you gotta have a balanced budget. I've always found that be somewhat conservative so that if you do better, you do some of these one-time item requests. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot better to celebrate than trying to go backwards with the budget.
And I've got another question. So when you do look at these numbers, are there any analysis that show that charter schools or private schools are pulling on these numbers, or we
Oh,
just?
definitely the charter schools are.
Okay.
Their payments are going up. You look at the dollar amount this district paid, it was substantially less than $10 million. So it's going up as a charter school student because the way we break it down is based off of everybody's respective share of the total, their population plus ours. And then each of our respective percentages is how we basically split it up. So their numbers are going up. Their numbers are going up. And I see it on the dollar side.
I think also and Dr. Stokes, correct me if I'm wrong, but there also is a group of kids, I mean, and we went last year looking for the kids. If you remember, there was an article about it, about was that about 1,000? It's about 1,000. So it's not that all kids are like running to charter. You've got homeschool increases, I believe, and I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head. But that's another factor, is there's a group of kids that are, since pandemic, that we are still like trying to find to bring back. They may have moved away. There are many reasons, and we did recover some, but, yeah.
All right, well, thank y'all very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next order of business is action items. First, consider approval of the Philo Hill GMP for construction. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So a motion is made by Board Member Kuhn. A second is made by Board Member Brown Gaither. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the kitchen renovations at Mount Tabor High School and Cook Elementary. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion was made by Board Member Kuhn, a second by Board Member Brown Gaither. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the resolution expressing board commitment to voluntary desegregation in 4 IB magnet schools. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So a motion was made by Board Member Miller, a second by Board Member Barr. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So motion passes 8-1.
No, two.
Oh, 8-2, I'm sorry.
So 7-2. Well,
7-2.
actually, 6-2, isn't it?
What?
6-2, because one person's missing.
Oh, 6-2.
Yeah.
Excuse me. 6-2. Next, consider approval of the Duke Energy easement 1001 Renolda Road. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
A motion was made by Board Member Kuhn, a second by Board Member Barr. Do I have any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the Duke Energy easement of 4332 Country Club Road. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. A motion was made by Board Member Barr, a second by Board Member Kuhn. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of a budget amendment number 6. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion was made by Board Member Kuhn, a second by Board Member Miller. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the new bell times for Petrie Elementary School. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Board Member Kuhn, second by Board Member Watts. Do I have any discussion?
I still,
Yes.
did we talk to the parents?
Yeah, we were going to survey, I believe.
Right.
Correct. Lauren's coming, I was just texting Lauren about this as I was looking at the item.
Sorry, I actually owed you an update on this over spring break. So after we left the last board meeting and I reached out to Alicia Bailey, she did confirm that the survey that she submitted was actually parents as well. She had already surveyed them. And so she did have feedback from them. I overlooked that and thought it was just a staff survey. So I misspoke and I owed you that over spring break. I much apologize. So, sorry.
Do you know what portion of those were parents and what portion was staff?
I can share that with you. I can tell you that, and again, I should have sent you that survey. I'm very sorry. But the staff and the parents were both in favor of going earlier, and the biggest support was for them to be able to have after-school care programs and the students to still be able to get home before it gets dark most days.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. We have 7 in favor and 1 opposed. Motion passes. Next, consider approval of Celebrate History Resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Board Member Watts, a second by Board Member Kuhn. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Our next order of business is announcements. April 25th, 2023 will be our next scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Before we begin the section of our meeting in which anyone can comment on almost anything, let me say to our cable TV viewers, thank you for watching. This will conclude our broadcast. At this time,
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.